We're just going to get started. I want our former student board member from Jordan High School, who is now graduated, Keyshawn.
Yes, sir.
Ford. Keyshawn, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes.
All right.
Please stand.
All right.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Keyshawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keyshawn. Okay. We welcome those who are here for purposes of addressing the board at the proper time and in the order of their request. For those who have not already submitted a request, we have provided forms in the back of the room and also have additional copies in front at the Assistant Secretary's position. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. You may also make a request to give testimony on an item not listed for discussion today. However, full discussion on any items not listed on the agenda will have to be delayed until such time as the item can be publicly posted in advance as a regular agenda item. If you wish to ask questions, please address them to the chair and not to individual members of the staff, board, or to the staff. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's closed session agenda and wishes to report that no reportable actions were taken. Okay, public hearing. Resolution 072020-A, approving the notice of authorization to dedicate easement to Southern California Edison at Lindbergh Middle School. This is an information item. Do we open this up for discussion? Brett, for anyone who wishes to speak?
Mr. President, we did not receive any comments for the
Okay. Thank you very much. No comments, we will move on. Call for agenda items for separate action. Adoption of the agenda is posted.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor. Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Approval of minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, voice vote. Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Communications. We have communications. Let me call on Dr. Baker first.
Good evening, Board of Education and community. At this critical moment in society, the centering of Black voices and perspectives is of utmost importance. The fight to end racism requires each and every one of us to take actions towards a more just and anti-racist society, as individuals and as organizations. As our entire community works to acknowledge, to listen, to convene, and to catalyze, tonight is an opportunity to uplift the voices of members of our Black community. I wish that I could say that LBUSD has been immune to racism, but that would not be true. As we work to address the pandemic and the greater challenges facing our vulnerable communities, including the Black community, we must acknowledge that not all of our children are well. Despite the multitude of efforts over decades of work, we are still here in this moment when we must come together in service to all of our children. Tonight is about listening and acknowledging. And I'm going to pass back to Dr. Williams to tell us about the invitation of those who will speak on behalf of the Black community this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. We have extended an invitation to certain members of the community to come out and share with us their work on their information on the work that has been done that they have contributed to on behalf of our students. And they're here to share that information with us. And the individuals who have been invited, that this was also developed with the collaboration of my fellow board member, Megan Kerr. So let's hear from our members of the community. Who's up first?
Great. We'll first invite Miss Melissa Morgan, representing Black Lives Matter, into this evening's communication.
Well, hello. Can you all hear me?
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Nice to be part of this call. Do I have 3 minutes or 2? We're on timer. All right, here we go. So officially, I am not representing Black Lives Matter. I am a community resident, a parent, a volunteer, and an anti-bias educator. I have been learning from Black Lives Matter and volunteering with the organization, but I am not a spokesperson. They're a leaderful organization, and I happen to be working with them and learning from them. So I don't want to say that I'm officially representing them, but I am here to lift up what I have been watching Black volunteers who've been working nonstop, tirelessly, in between full-time jobs, parenting, caretaking, and dealing with the coronavirus's impact on Black lives, many of whom are Black Lives Matter activists, advocates, and volunteers in the community. I have been watching these women every night, having calls, volunteering, doing the hard work to research and try to engage and learn from your system as a school district and how to give other parents access to information. So I'd like to lift up some of the demands that Black Lives Matter has made and that other Black parents that I've been learning from and working with are sharing. First, I want to say and acknowledge that racism exists systemically and it impacts our young people here in Long Beach. We need anti-racist reforms to happen in our school district, and we really need to address anti-Black sentiment. I'm really looking for you all school board members in our district to use the word Black and to talk about Black students specifically. You may know I moved here 20 years ago to work on addressing racism and building safe and bias-free schools. I've worked with several nonprofits across Southern California and here in Long Beach. And still 20 years later with my own children, and just leaving elementary school and high school and in middle school, they still are experiencing really extreme anti-Black sentiment from educators, from their peers. Our youth have amazing ideas of how to engage teachers, educators, and parents in building more bias-free, safe, inclusive, respectful schools and to be able to uplift and center Black students. So I've been working with students and teachers and educators who are seasoned as well as new from Orange County to LA County. And I know that implicit bias, anti-bias training does work if it's instituted across the school district. Black Lives Matter and other Black parents would like to see our school district here in Long Beach fund implicit bias trainings that are mandatory for all district level staff, principals, management. We'd like to see you all hire more Black teachers, administrators, and support staff. So building that into your recruitment and into your retention plans. We'd like to see Black Lives Matter curriculum built into the schools, as well as other Black history, Black studies, and ethnic studies, so that our young people can learn additional history about who they are and feel proud about who they are and be affirmed about their culture. Would also like to see the district track, how are Black students doing? And since I was volunteering with NAACP at the end of last year, Superintendent Steinhauser shared some data about how Black students are comparing with testing scores in comparison to other students of other racial groups. Our children are suffering, they're struggling, and I would say this is a case of emergency, an educational emergency where we need our school district partners, the leaders there making the decisions to Keep Black on your agenda. Let's hear about how Black students are faring, not just all people of color, but particularly we need to hear about Black students. We need to know that you are concerned about them and that the status quo is not okay. We are not okay. We are dying from the coronavirus. We are failing in our schools. We're being failed. We're being disproportionately disciplined. You have the data, and I've been working hard to let other parents see it because we're not hearing you talk about it. We need you to talk about it, address it, be bold, stretch yourselves, and make difficult decisions to not just be equitable, but to be mindful and address your own interpersonal and subconscious anti-Black sentiment. I say that because I myself, as a Black leader and implicit bias educator, have been really battling with my own personal anti-Black sentiment that as a person who has been part of the status quo and working for large institutions over the years, it's taken a lot of personal reflection to see our children and our neighbors who are Black and poorer than us. They are suffering because we're not taking it seriously and we're too concerned to not ruffle white people's feathers. I've been called by Black leaders, told that I need to not call white people white people. There are a lot of sensitivities from older Black leaders in our community, and I think it's time for them, for anyone on the school board and for folks working in the school board to really look deeply at what are our younger generations saying, what is the movement they want to be part of. I am willing to help bring together people to sit at the table that you sit at, who are willing to work and share their experiences as Black people, people who are poorer, maybe without the great education level and background you may have. We have a lot to offer. They have a lot to offer. We'd like to see the CIAP group to really do some work to stretch and find ways to involve all parents of all socioeconomic backgrounds into this African American support group. We'd like to see culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, and other social workers and behavioral specialists hired, particularly Black people, and mandate restorative transformative justice programs. I've seen firsthand the power of this work, but it takes an incredible investment in building and shifting a culture around restorative justice. I'm working with someone in Northern California. I've worked with restorative justice work in Orange County. There are incredible resources here who are ready. We've got CCEJ and other organizations, but you have to be willing to put the funding there. When I came here 20 years ago, money was put aside for the CCEJ Building Bridges Camp program. My high school student's now a youth leader there, and she is dying to see this program happening on all the schools and with the leadership bodies of the schools.
Melissa, you got to call time in another minute.
Oh, great. It's called? I didn't hear it. Great. Well, I think I've gone through everything. So keep Black at the forefront. I really look forward to seeing how you lead this way.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. Bring up the next speaker.
I believe the next speaker was Minnie Douglas, and she's not able to join, so I will read her comments for her.
Okay.
Okay. I'm unable to attend the board meeting due to the pandemic. Therefore, I'm submitting my comments in writing. Recommendation. The city of Long Beach has a large number of African American service providing organizations and faith-based organizations. I believe planning and implementing a forum to bring all of these groups together to discuss what each is doing and working with school-age African American children and how the district can assist in their endeavors to enhance the education of this population. The forum will provide input relative to what is needed and how to go about meeting these needs. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Steinhauser. Thank you for many years of service to the community as superintendent of Long Beach Unified School District. Under your leadership, the district has been instrumental in providing quality programs to enhance the educational aspirations of students. Your keen awareness and recognition of the unique educational needs of African American students is truly exemplary. I appreciate it and wish you a wonderful retirement. Dr. Williams, thank you for being an advocate for all students. I am grateful for the efforts you expended in spearheading the forum for students of color at Cabrillo High School. The forum allowed input from students and parents regarding their educational desires. I believe this forum was the impetus for change in the district in developing programs which aided students of color in educational aspirations. In addition, thank you for asking me to serve on the advisory committee with a goal of increasing the number of African American students enrolling in advanced placement classes. As a result of this committee work, which has had as members school counselors, teachers, community members, and business representation, the district had an increase in the number of African American students taking advanced placement classes and passing the examinations. Your leadership was a driving force for this committee. Thank you. Congratulations to Dr. Jill Baker as you assume the role of superintendent. I wish you much success in fulfilling the obligations of this position.
Thank you very much, Letitia. Let's move on to the next speaker,
Next speaker, we'll welcome in Mr. Al Austin.
Councilman Austin.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, well, appreciate the opportunity to share comments this evening about Long Beach Unified's work on behalf of students of color, particularly Black students. As a parent,
Council member, I think we may have lost your audio.
We'll let him get back on track. Let's go on to the next speaker, and when he's ready, we'll bring him up.
Our next speaker is Mr. Ntuck.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you, President Williams, the board, for having us. I really want to thank the efforts of Dr. Benitez, board member Kerr, for helping make this happen today and bringing us together to have this open line of communications. My name's Udawak Joe Ntuck. I've been a parent at Long Beach Unified for nearly 2 decades. I volunteered hundreds of personal time volunteering in multiple schools for my children and other children. I helped found the Long Beach Robo Bowl that still goes on to help kids in STEM in Long Beach Unified. I'm the first Black faculty member in the chemical engineering department at Long Beach State in 2015, and I'm the vice president of the Long Beach City College Board of Trustees. This is an incredibly important time in discussion, and I wanted to share what we've been doing at Long Beach City College, that we recognize there is an anti-Black culture in our institution and in our community. And it's really important that we don't sugarcoat it or pretend it doesn't exist, because it does. So at Long Beach City College, we've looked at the data provided some by Dr. Lund, that 45% of all Long Beach Unified students who go to college come to Long Beach City College. Of those students, we have the largest Black student population in higher education in the city. We actually have more Black students who go to Long Beach City College now than go to Long Beach State. And so when we talk about serving the Black community, Long Beach City College is the epicenter of that activity. On campus, we have adopted the Long Beach Framework for Reconciliation as a blueprint or a process for us to develop our own solutions. So listening, acknowledging, convening stakeholders, and coming up with a plan for systemic change. We have done that. So we had a bold resolution that declared Black Lives Matter that was adopted by our board as a policy statement of our institution. We did that so that there's no uncertainty about where do we stand in these unprecedented times. We jointly have worked together on the College Promise, but recognize the current College Promise was not designed for all students. It's time to revisit that with an equity lens, and I think we are committed as an institution, building on our partnership with Long Beach Unified. I did participate in a schools forum with a number of members of the public and elected officials, because we did not feel that we had the voice at the current school board. And we're thankful that we have this opportunity today, and we want to have more conversations, but there's work to be done. And I just want to say to Dr. Williams, we recognize the work you have individually done over the years have been incredibly difficult. None of us question your integrity or your motive or your achievements, but all the work we have done is not enough. We must do more, and we are committed to working with you to do more, whether that ends up furthering more ethnic studies, expanding a teacher training pipeline that includes Long Beach City College, doing joint programs and joint campuses between Long Beach Unified and Long Beach City College so that we can expand dual enrollment, create programs that students can graduate with their AA degree and their high school diploma at 18 to have better job opportunities, better educational achievement. Because we looked at our numbers in Long Beach City College, Black students have the lowest graduation rates, the lowest transfer rates, the lowest GPA, and it's not a genetic thing, it's a systemic racism issue. And we are recognizing and working to fix that. We have not reached the mountaintop, but we are committed to working together through an open line of communication and partnership to build up, to make it truly inclusive so that we can really lift all boats and live up to all of our goals and aspirations. Long Beach Unified, we're committed to working together with you as we navigate to serve the whole body. Board for having us speak today, and look forward to continue to work with all of you in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you, Trustee. It's appreciated very much. Thank you, sir. All right, let's bring up our next speaker.
We're going to go back to Mr. Al Austin.
Al, are you available? Councilman Austin? Okay, why don't we move on, and if we can get Councilman Austin back, we will allow him to come back in and make a few remarks. Let's move on the agenda.
We have him on the line, Dr. Williams. We're just having trouble getting him from the Zoom waiting room into the Zoom. So, oh, okay.
What's the situation?
We'll come back to him.
I think there he is. Okay, Al.
Okay.
Yeah. We see you're muted. Okay, you're not muted now. We can't hear you. We'll come back to you to see if you can get that fixed, but we'll come back to you. Okay?
All right, well, welcome in former Jordan High School student, recent graduate, Kishan Offord.
Hello.
Hi, Kishan.
How are you all?
Good, and yourself?
Good. Can you all see me?
We don't see you.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. Okay, so as a student in this district for many years, I've learned many life skills, and I have met many lifetime friends, and I have been given access to tons of education and connections to help me not only as a student, but after school, like as in college or just in life in general. The staff are always friendly and willing to help with whatever. It may not be school, it might be something that's going on at home or something that, you know, I might need push help with. I always look forward to the newsletters because it keeps me up to date on what's going on inside the district and sometimes out of the district. And I have been given many opportunities through many staff members such as yourselves here. And I'm very, very excited to start my college journey so that I can be able to join you guys and being a staff member of a part of the district. Sorry.
Okay, now we have your video. Anything else you want? Anything else you want to add, Kishan?
No, not really. I think.
Okay.
I just want to thank you all for the opportunities that you've given all of us as students.
So, are you attending college now?
Yes.
Where are you going?
In a few weeks. Long Beach City.
All right. Okay. You're one of UWA's students.
Yes.
Is he treating you okay over there?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that
Thank
report.
you. All right.
Thank you very much, Kishan. Al, are you with us now?
I am. Can you hear me?
We still can't hear you, Al.
Wow.
Can't hear you. We'll come back to you. Thank you, Kishan. All right.
I can hear you, Al. It's just really soft. So you can if you could get closer to your mic, that might work out.
His mute button is still up, still on.
Okay.
Your mute button's on.
Okay, it looks like we lost him altogether.
Wait, no, he's there. Try one more time, Al.
Is that him talking now?
Sit right
The
there.
echo?
This is me. Can you hear me now?
We got you, Al. All right.
Oh,
Let's hear it.
well, I'm sorry. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address our Long Beach Unified School District, our faculty, our team, teachers, our students, and support staff this evening. You all make a big difference in the lives of thousands of children throughout our district every day. And I really want to just salute you all for having this conversation. I think it's very, very important, particularly recognizing the time, the cry, the moment that we are in. This is a pivotal time in our city's history, our nation's history, and this is an opportunity, I believe, for our school board and school district to continue improvement, but be bolder at the same time. I've had an excellent relationship with the school district. My wife and I, we have been extremely involved with education of our children through our PTAs, but also extra involvement with our schools in our community. It's important. Our schools are a place where it all begins for students and families, and it's core to delivery of every level of social and educational support that we can possibly have. I want to just commit that City of Long Beach obviously is a partner and a strong partner, but I've enjoyed great partnerships with the 9 schools in my district, 9 Long Beach Unified Schools, including elementary, middle school. Unfortunately, we don't have any high schools, but we feed into the parental involvement is
We lost the audio, Al.
opportunities. Understanding the disparities in that regard. The 8th district is arguably most
Yeah, Al, you're going in and out.
schools and low
Okay.
involvement.
Al?
And so we need to be creative in terms of how we reach those parents, Black parents, brown parents, have an impact on outcomes. Also want to just appreciate the work of the district. The vast majority, if not all, of men and women of color, and that should be saluted. Edward Samuels, the principal at Hughes Junior Middle School, an exemplary example. And then the support that our family has received. Well, the work of the Concerned Black Parents organization, the work of the Young Gifted and Black program at Hughes Middle School, the AVID programs, and the Male Academy. But the children that can improve that, we will be better off. Of Black children in our district and throughout our city. And so finally, I'd just like to just say that I also really appreciate the partnership and support of to help us established in Africa. They are Black students to celebrate the culture and to know that they have a place and space here in the city. And to the extent appreciate President Felton Williams. I know he's the current president of the board of that organization. A lot of his time and sweat equity to getting that off.
Thank you, Al, very much. We missed a lot of it because the audio kept going in and out, but we did capture some of that, and we appreciate the time that you've taken to come in and make your remarks. Thank you very much. This is our next speaker. Thank you, Al.
Just want to see if Pastor Wayne Cheney came into the waiting room.
Is he here?
Not at this time. So our last speaker will be Mr. Lynn Tatum.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you notice, I'm actually sitting in front of the LBUSD building right now. So if I get an opportunity, I'll explain why. First, I want to say good afternoon on behalf of Black parents in LBUSD. Although I'm still unsure of the purpose of me speaking during this time, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. From listening to those who have spoke before, it's been a combination of those praising past efforts, and I've heard little sharing of experiences of Black experience, although I thought that was part of the conversation, supposed to be part of the conversation. One thing that I wanted to talk about is parent engagement or lack of parent engagement, especially when it comes to Black African-American parents. I've been involved with the school district for over a decade. I was involved prior to my children even being school age. And time after time, year after year, very few Black parents are present. So after working with different organizations and community groups, trying to figure out why are they not present? And the one thing that I keep kind of coming up with is a lack of effort from Long Beach Unified to actively engage Black parents. Our needs are different. There's barriers. One barrier is our community is diverse. There's no place in Long Beach where you can go and say that's where all the Black people are. That does not exist. And we are of diversity from economic levels all the way to education levels. So often when we talk about parent engagement, specifically with African-American parents, the district tells us to participate with the Coalition of Involved African-American Parents. That group, that organization, although it serves a purpose and it provides information, it is not the group that is resolving many of our ills with our students. For example, whenever parents have concerns, whether it be specific, their voices are not heard in that space. They're actually not attempted to give commentary. So I would like to ask the district that when we do, as parents come to you and ask you to hear our voice, please don't direct us to CAP. That is not the answer. When we ask you why our test scores are still low, please don't say CAP is the solution, because it's not. They're of a different population, the population based upon college path, or they have a different education. I have participated in the LCAP community group. This is an agreement between community organizations and LBUSD. Since 2018, 3 community forums have been held and 1 community dialogue with an expert in education equity. The purpose of these were to help engage parents that have traditionally not been part of the LCAP process. Parents that have not been part of that process are African-American parents. It's also been a space for parents to learn about the complexities of that process. Again, who's been absent in that process? African American parents. But one thing that has been very bothersome is when you have an African American board member that has not been present. Those that are part of our leadership are not present. So I would just like the board, and I hope that whoever our new electeds are, that they are being mindful of the community and they're being engaged with the community. Because if you want us to be engaged, which we need to be, we need you to be engaged with us. So why am I sitting in front of the building right now? Since we have entered into this COVID period, the community's voice has not been able to be heard live. So please, as you move forward, please make sure that you make an effort, just as this effort has been made for the African American community to speak today. Please make sure you
Thank you, Ms. Tatum. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Effort for voices to be heard live, via instead of being read by staff members. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Dr. Baker?
That concludes our speakers for this item.
All right. I want to thank all the speakers who took time to speak. We heard your input. We appreciate your comments, and all of that information will be taken into consideration as we move forward. Thank you all once again. We are now at public testimony on items listed on the agenda. Do we have any testimony, Letitia?
Yes, Mr. President, we have 58 comments under agenda items.
We're not going to deal with 58 comments. We can expand it to, let's just get the consent of the board. As much as we did before on the comments, the number of comments that have come in, how do you want to move forward on the comments? I think the last time we added, another 10 or 15 minutes to the comments?
The last time you extended it to 1 hour and limited the comments to 2 minutes.
Okay, what's the preference of the board in moving forward on the comments?
Letitia, how many?
Go ahead. Sorry, board member.
Letitia, how many do we have for non-agendized items? Do we have a list of that as well?
Yes, for non-agenda, we have 10 comments.
Okay.
And 58 for items listed on the agenda.
That is correct.
So I would support extending time for items listed on the agenda.
Okay, we need to have a definite time on this, and not indefinite. It won't be indefinite.
I would support, like we did last time, extending public comment on items on the agenda 30 minutes, 30 minutes more.
Okay, Letitia, we'll extend it 30 minutes.
Okay.
Do you have extra folks who can help you do the reading then, if you're going to do it?
We have it covered here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I will begin with the first one, which is from Priya Balsen. My name is Priya Balsen. I'm a parent of 2 children in Long Beach Unified School District who will be beginning 2nd grade and 6th grade this fall. I also directly work with special needs students and families in LBUSD and the neighboring districts. Safety is a priority, and I commend LBUSD for taking the necessary steps to ensure the safety of our teachers, staff, students, and families during the pandemic. Thank you for the opportunity to address several concerns for special needs students and students of color as LBUSD moves forward with reopening this fall on a virtual platform. Many of our LBUSD students struggled with access to a meaningful and enriching curriculum in the spring. The results of the LBUSD Home Learning Survey highlighted many areas that need to be addressed. The survey results confirm that LBUSD must do more to ensure that our most vulnerable students are not left at the end of the pandemic with academic gaps that cannot be corrected. Although the district coordinated Chromebook distribution, many students unfortunately continue to face difficulties with technology access. Students reported internet issues and that they needed to share a computer. Our Hispanic, African American, and Pacific Islander students reported the greatest challenges. Students indicated that they faced difficulties with having a quiet place to work, that they were required to care for siblings, and that they did not have an independent tech device and were therefore required to share a computer. Parent survey responses were notably low and ranged from 17% in District 2 to merely 31% in District 5. Low survey results invariably lead to a conclusion that the survey results at a higher percentage of participation would have led to results reflecting even greater disparities. Survey results tell us that 30% of students did not receive live learning and 40% did not speak with classmates. 42% of students were unmotivated with their curriculum. Spring online learning must be improved upon as we move into another period of online learning. How do we move forward? LBUSD must comply with the state budget setting a standard for fall instruction. Specifically, daily live interaction is now mandated and is a crucial component of an effective online curriculum. Students need an online curriculum to stay engaged and obtain the most out of their online time. The district must work towards preventing student disengagement. Students should not face an unreasonable amount of homework assignments to comply with the minimum instruction requirements set forth in the budget. Instruction time must be meaningful and should be comprised of live teacher instruction and only enriching assignments. Ongoing outreach by the district should be provided. Okay, time is up for this one. Our next speaker is Lisa Marie Tobin. I am writing for you to reimagine education. Please divest funds away from police in your schools into students. Black students are disproportionately affected by the police presence in schools. It reinforces the school to prison pipeline and criminalizes them before they even have the choice. I am writing to demand you acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism within LBUSD. Full inclusion and equity in determining the educational priorities and academic planning for Black youth and students in Long Beach, including agency over LCAP resources and any others issued to Long Beach City based on the disproportionate Black experiences and demographics within the city. Hire more Black teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and support staff. Hire culturally competent academic and social-emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Fund art, music, science and technology, ethnic studies, physical education, and after-school programs. Mandate Black and ethnic studies. Incorporate Black Lives Matter in schools curriculum. And LBPD contracts with LBUSD and get school resource officers, the police, out of schools. And zero tolerance and out-of-school suspension. Require schools to report demographics on school discipline. Provide alternatives to student discipline such as restorative, transformative justice programs. Make space for student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically deficient students. Thank you. LBUSD. My next one is Kayleen from District 3, and she lives in zip code 90803. I would like to make a public comment in support of Black children in LBUSD and prioritizing them. LBUSD can defend Black students by acknowledging the existence and impact of systemic racism within LBUSD. This is not about reconciliation, but reckoning with the Black community and initiating action. Action includes full inclusion and equity in determining the educational priorities and academic planning for Black youth and students in Long Beach, including agency over LCAP resources and any others issued to Long Beach City based on the disproportionate Black experiences and demographics within the city. Hiring more Black teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and support staff. Hiring culturally competent academic and social emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Funding art, music, science and technology, ethnic studies, physical education, and after-school programs. Mandate Black and ethnic studies while incorporate Black Lives Matter in schools curriculum. And LBPD contracts with LBUSD and get school resource officers, the police, out of schools. And zero tolerance and out-of-school suspension. Require schools to report demographics on school discipline. Provide alternatives to student discipline such as restorative, transformative justice programs. Make space for student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically deficient students. To match this current climate and moment in this larger civil rights movement, it's not a question of whether these demands need to be met immediately, but why has it taken this long? We have to believe the Black community and their experiences. They know what is best for the community and children in LBUSD. Not listening to their demands is perpetuating white supremacy culture of dismissing Black people's experiences and not treating them equal. Black children do not feel safe emotionally, physically, psychology in our schools. This is unacceptable, and Black students must be prioritized over white comfort. If white staff, teachers, or students feel safe in our schools, then that automatically equates that Black and brown students do not. I refuse to allow my white children to feel safe at the sake of Black and brown students not feeling safe. I have firsthand seen implicit bias and systemic racism in LBUSD while volunteering in my kids' classrooms and being part of the Inclusion and Diversity Committee. Now is the time to reimagine and implement what safety in schools for all really looks like. That is meeting each of those demands today. Thank you.
Marta Cota.
Go ahead.
Buenas tardes, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Marta Cota, directora ejecutiva de Latinos in Action, una organización sin fines de lucro con la misión de crear una sociedad más justa y equitativa para todos a través de la solidaridad y el respeto y la acción. Mi comentario es acerca del artículo número 25. Que el distrito haga completa inclusión y equidad en la determinación del éxito académico para jóvenes y estudiantes negros en Long Beach, idealmente contratando a más maestros negros, personal de apoyo y profesionales. Gracias, Marta Cota. Good afternoon, Superintendent and board members. My name is Marta Cota, Executive Director of Latinos in Action, a nonprofit organization with the mission to create a more just and equitable society for all through solidarity, respect, and action. My comment is in regarding item number 25, that the district make full inclusion and equity in determining the academic success of young people and Black students in Long Beach, ideally by hiring more Black teachers, support staff, and professionals. Thank you, Marta Cota.
Next. This one's from Monica Santa Esteban. My name is Monica. Zip code is 90808, and I am commenting on item number 25, equity policy. I would like to see more people of color represented throughout your administrative positions, elementary through high school. You won't even imagine what an impact this can have on students who can actually look up to them and feel understood because that administrator comes from the same backgrounds and gives them hope. Next, Elaine Ocampo. Dear esteemed members of the school board, my name is Elaine Ocampo, and as a faculty member at CSULB, zip code 90840, I serve as a humble liaison, not only between high school graduates from LBUSD who move on to attend CSULB, but also as an internship coordinator for graduate students who are fortunate to not only complete their internships, with your district, but eventually move on to be employed by LBUSD. I am proud to be part of an educational team that embraces the motto of no barriers, as I represent a philosophy born from one of the most diverse campuses in the CSU system. Anti-racist reforms must begin at the K through 12 level, and as part of the pipeline between LBUSD and CSULB, please consider this request by proposing an action plan to be carried out by LBUSD. Respectfully, Elaine Ocampo. Next is Bill Weeks. My name is William Weeks. I am a teacher for LBUSD. I believe schools should remain closed as long as there are so many new cases being reported. I also want to comment on item number 25, equity policy. My father was a staff reporter for the LA Times and Newsweek. Newsweek described him as being one of the 10 most important writers of the civil rights movement. My sister registered voters in Mississippi right after 3 workers were killed. I have participated in many demonstrations and am best of friends with Miguel Garcia, who elevated the use of discovery using police records to an art form for civil rights lawyers. Our political leaders must stop police departments from destroying their files to prevent bad apples from being discovered and dealt with. We need to make sure that all students have access to the internet and have good computers. Students need to develop their critical thinking skills by being exposed to the history of slavery, the history of the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts, and the bias of police departments. LBUSD must take a public stand that Black Lives Matter and incorporate Black studies at all age levels. I stand with all of the below. Acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism, fund implicit bias mandatory trainings, hire more Black teachers, administrators, and support staff, incorporate Black Lives Matter in curriculum, mandate Black and ethnic studies, fund art, music, science and technology, physical education, and after-school programs, hire culturally competent academic and social emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists, mandate restorative, transformative justice programs, fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions, provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Thank you for your attention, William Weeks. Next, Alex Friedman. Good evening, my name is Alexandra Friedman. My zip code is 90815. I am a parent of an LBUSD student, and my comment is regarding item number 25, equity policy. I am writing in support of Black Lives Matter Long Beach demands of LBUSD, which are acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism, fund mandatory trainings in implicit bias for all staff and teachers, hire more Black teachers, administrators, and support staff, incorporate the Black Lives Matter curriculum, mandate Black and ethnic studies, fund art, music, science and technology, physical education, and after-school programs, hire culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists, manage restorative, transformative justice programs, fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions, provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Thank you for your attention to these incredibly important educational equity issues. With the school year starting online only, I have serious concerns that our shameful achievement gap will continue to widen, disadvantaging Black, brown, and poor students. It is crucial to make these changes now and do all that we can to create a safe and just educational system for all students.
Next, we have, my name is Jacqueline Viali, living in zip code 90803, and I am commenting on item number 25, equity policy. I believe it is imperative that the Long Beach Unified School District acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism, both in our school system and in our communities in general. It is critical that we hire more Black teachers, administrators, and support staff to reflect the student demographics of our schools. The curriculum must incorporate Black Lives Matter, and ethnic studies must be mandated. We can no longer ignore and misrepresent the past or the present. The consequences are too dire, and we are aware of the terrible consequences already perpetrated on Black community members. In addition, LBUSD must fund art, music, science, and technology, physical education, and after-school programs that are equitably available to every student at every school. We must also mandate restorative, transformative justice programs and fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Finally, LBUSD must provide a full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Thank you for your time. Now we have Maria.
María Gutiérrez. Buenas tardes, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es María Gutiérrez. Mi comentario es acerca al artículo número 25. Estoy representando a Latinos in Action, donde un gran número de padres estamos buscando la inclusión completa y equidad en la determinación del éxito académico para jóvenes y estudiantes negros en Long Beach. Como padres queremos expresar nuestro descontento por la falta de equidad para los estudiantes negros. Superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva, escuchen la voz de los padres. Es triste sentir que la equidad no llegue a ser parte importante en su política educativa para el éxito académico. Gracias, María Gutiérrez. Good afternoon, Superintendent and board members. My name is Maria Gutierrez. My comment is about item number 25. I am representing Latinos in Action, where a large number of parents are seeking full inclusion and equity in determining academic success for Black youth and students in Long Beach. As parents, we want to express our dissatisfaction with the lack of equity for Black students. Superintendent and board members, listen to the voice of parents. It is sad to feel that equity does not become a major part of your educational policy for academic success. Thank you, Maria Gutierrez.
Next we have Melissa De Mayo. My name is Mel, and I'm a parent of 3 LBUSD students, and we reside in the 90713 zip code. I also work as a Title I school at a Title I school in a neighboring district. The teachers that my children have been astounding, and I am pleased. I was at a Long Beach community forum recently and was speechless when I heard about other students and families' racist experiences at other schools in our district. I am here to support LBUSD, but I am also concerned about equity policy number 25. Anti-Blackness in LBUSD is of great concern, particularly the existence of systemic racism that directly impacts our students. I wonder why Black Lives Matter has not yet been part of the curriculum, how standardized testing impacts our marginalized communities, and why implicit bias and anti-racist trainings are not mandatory to ensure accountability among staff members. If the students and alumni are voicing what they have seen related to racism and anti-Black sentiment, it is not our role to investigate and be altruistic. Also, are there forums where student-led bodies can provide input on school district decisions? These decisions affect them directly. Why not include their input? Also, the funding of art, music, STEM, PE, and are so impactful in a child's learning, especially for our students that are multimodal learners, such as those in special education. Not every student learns by just hearing it. Many require motor movements, visuals, audio, music, and melody, kinesthetic touch. Any other question is, do we have staff in giving disciplines that our students need? Counselors, behavior specialists, school psychologists, social workers as needed, seem pertinent for every school, and these staff members should be culturally competent. Additionally, why are Black and ethnic studies not a requirement starting at the elementary school level? in reaching out to other districts and educational leaders in the ethnic studies movement. Below are 3 recommended research-based practices. Adoption of resolution number 19/20-3353 ethnic studies requirement. We ask for the district to join a growing number of local districts, Los Alamitos, Anaheim Union, Santa Ana, Anaheim City, Rancho, and LAUSD, and follow the state's recommendation to require ethnic studies. Ethnic studies focus on 4 historically defined racialized groups: African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans. Okay, time is out. Next, we have Jeanette Carbone. Dear members of the Board of Education, on June 5th, 2020, the Wall Street Journal printed an article named "The Results Are In for Remote Learning. It Didn't Work." Described as a complete failure for our children, remote learning resulted in diminished scores in math and reading. Despite poor results, teachers continue to get full salary and benefits. My daughter received 3 hours of online instruction every week. There was no feedback on the tedious work she did at home, no testing, no grading, and no performance evaluation. Many essential workers, such as police officers, first responders, and even supermarket workers, had to work in person. Why are teachers not held to that standard? Is our children's education not considered essential? Since teachers are paid from our tax-paying dollars, they should be responsible to us and our kids. Why should we pay them when they fail to deliver quality education and not provide a full educational day? Even if teachers receive some instruction on how to be more efficient at online teaching, it does not solve the problem on the other end. Number 1, children in abusive households whose safety relies on returning to school. Number 2, households with multiple children who lack sufficient computers or have poor internet access to support everyone in the house that is now online. Number 3, parents who must work and cannot provide the time needed to teach and guide their children. Number 4, special needs children who rely on instruction by teachers capacitated in their special educational needs. Why isn't the same effort being put forth for a safe return to the classroom as you have done for developing an online curriculum to meet the needs of Governor Newsom's, quote, more rigorous distance learning, end of quote? Why do these parents who prefer and can have their kids at home be accommodated, but those parents that want and need their kids to go back to the classroom have no option at all? The board is bowing down to the Teachers Association. I have spoken to various administrators I know who agree that kids should be in the classroom and want teachers there as well. However, it is the Long Beach Teachers Association who declines it. They were upset that Dr. Jill Baker sent out the notice about 3 potential options for the upcoming school year when the Teachers Association had not approved it. I ask you, members of the board, who is in charge? If kids are returning online, how will you ensure standardized instructions for all children throughout the district? Will they provide testing, grading, and feedback? Without this, it is futile and teachers can get away with not teaching if they cannot monitor our kids' progress. This is another issue with online instruction. Time is up.
Next, we have Tova Puzzle. LBUSD Board and Superintendent Jill Baker. I sat on a call 10 days ago and listened to atrocities that came occurring today to diminish, shame, and harass children of color. I heard of LBUSD who put children in blackface because they were not enough people of color in the drama class. A school dance club was allowed to form, made up of primarily Black girls wanting to perform cultural dance, and then it was dismantled and they were told they could join the regular dance group. School police letting white kids off the hook for infringements and punishing Black kids. This must stop. Please make children of color a priority. Respectfully, Tova Pulsel, Long Beach, California, 90807. Then Tova also submitted a second email and submission, and it reads, please let me submit again with the proper language. My name is Tova Puzzle. My zip code is 90807, and this is for item number 25, equity policy. I strongly believe there is an urgent need for anti-racist reform in our school system. Please support the lives and success of Black children. Respectfully, Tova Puzzle. Next is Destiny Ferguson. My name is Destiny Ferguson. I live in 90805, and this is about item number 25, equity policy. LBUSD educated thousands of children of color and Black kids. These children cannot grow up with the same white supremacist curriculum as previous generations if they are to change our world for the better. We as parents demand that you make changes that will be in effect for the 2021 school year and beyond. Hire more Black teachers and school administrators and support staff. Kids need to see themselves in the adults that are educating them and surround them every day in their learning. All staff in LBUSD needs to undergo implicit bias trainings, and this should be an ongoing thing as no one can unpack their biases within a single afternoon. Make Black Lives Matter a part of the culture of the schools. Let us know you see and value our children by mandating Black and ethnic studies at every grade level in the district. There needs to be restorative and transformative justice programs. Fund the arts in underserved schools. Stop treating our Black kids like they are a problem when in fact the problem is the racist practices that have gone on far too long unchecked. White supremacy is in every fold of the school systems. End all contracts with school police and LBPD. Police do not belong in our schools. Stop the school to prison pipeline while the opportunity for systemic change is present. Destiny Ferguson. Next is Roberta Dennis. Hello, my name is Roberta Dennis, and I live in District 6, zip code 90806. This comment is for agenda item 25, equity policy. As a parent and educator, I have experienced our Long Beach education from both roles. In order to end anti-Blackness in our Long Beach school system, we need to do the following. Hire more Black teachers, administrators, counselors, and support staff so Black students see themselves represented in school adults. Invest in mandatory implicit bias training for all staff to combat institutionalized white supremacy. Mandate Black and ethnic study classes for students to educate students in a way that supports a just and democratic society. Be clear in acknowledging that systemic racism exists in our schools so we can fight how it has negatively impacted all our students, especially our Black children. It is time for you to be strong for our children and to take a stand in this moment to correct what has been wrong for so long. We look to you to hear our demands and take courageous and bold steps. Thank you for hearing my comments. Sincerely, Roberta Dennis. Next, from Lisa. Hello, my name is Lisa Klimas, and my zip code is 90808. Please consider the following for item 25, equity policy. Gloria Ladson Billings, 2006, explains that the achievement gap, i.e. disparities in standardized test scores between Black, Indigenous, people of color, and white students, is one of the most talked about issues in the U.S. education. She explains that a focus on this gap is misplaced. Rather, we have an education debt that has accumulated over time, including historical, economical, socio-political, and moral components. Our school systems are not serving our Black, Indigenous, and people of color by design. They are built on foundations of anti-Blackness and white supremacy that we need to disrupt. We need to transform the underlying systems that created this achievement gap to take up our ethical responsibility, to halt business as usual, center Black voices and Black grassroots movement leaders, and transform our education system. Specifically, I join the call for LBUSD to hire more Black teachers, administrators, counselors, and support staff, and create environments that retain Black staff and invest in the pipeline of Black educator. Fund art, music, science, and technology, physical education, and after-school programs. Hire culturally competent academic and social emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Mandate restorative, transformative justice programs. Fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism and anti-Blackness. Fund implicit bias mandatory trainings. Incorporate Black Lives Matter curriculum. Mandate robust and ambiguous Black and ethnic studies. Cancel the contract with LBPD that assigns police officers to be stationed inside schools, and get rid of SROs, school resource officers, who are essentially LBUSD police that are stationed at school sites and patrol the district. Best, Lisa Klimas, LBUSD parent.
The next comment I have is from Alejandra Albarran, and she submitted the exact same email that Lori just read. Do you want me to read it again? It's word for word, it's the same comment.
I don't know if I need you to read it again, but just if you could clarify her name again so that her name is on the record.
Alejandra Albarran, her zip code is 90808, and this is for item number 25, equity policy. And it's exactly what Lori just read, beginning with Gloria Latson Billings, 2006, explains that the achievement gap, i.e. disparities in standardized test scores between Black, Indigenous. So it's exactly the same message. Should I read it all then?
I think acknowledging her is sufficient.
Okay. Next, we have Brenda Silvertooth. My name is Brenda Silvertooth. My zip code is 90815. Our daughter attends Tincher Preparatory School, and this comment is in regards to item number 25. Thank you for making the correct and safe decision regarding the start of schools. Our students and the staff of every school in the LBUSD will deeply benefit from your caution. I hope you will continue this trend by adopting anti-racist reforms for all of the campuses in the district. Funding everything that every stakeholder desires is impossible. That is the sad truth about educational funding. Working on these proposals will benefit all stakeholders throughout the district. Please continue to do what is right by all of our students. Thank you for your time. Next, my name is Molly Bennett. My zip code is 90807, and I am a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the LB Council PTA. My comment is regarding item number 25, equity policy. It is time for anti-racism teachings and policies to be implemented district-wide. I am in full support of the demands from BLM LB as expressed in the images below. We demand the disruption of anti-Blackness in LBUSD. Acknowledge the existence and impact of systemic racism. Fund implicit bias mandatory trainings. Hire more Black teachers, administrators, and support staff. Incorporate Black Lives Matter in curriculum. Mandate Black and ethnic studies. We demand a robust support system for Black students. Fund art, music, science, and technology, and physical education and other after-school programs. Hire culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Mandate restorative, transformative justice programs. Fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Molly Bennett.
Next, Brianna Hinga. Hi, my name is Brianna Hinga. My zip code is 90802, and this is for item 25, equity policy. Gloria Ladson Billings, 2006, explains the achievement gap, i.e. disparities and standardized test scores between Black and white, Latinx and white, and recent immigrant and white students, is one of the most talked about issues in the U.S. education. She explains that a focus on this gap is misplaced. Rather, we have an education debt that has accumulated over time, including historical, economic, socio-political, and moral components. Our school systems are not serving our Black, Indigenous, and people of color by design. They are built on foundations of anti-Blackness and white supremacy that we need to disrupt. We need to transform the underlying systems that create the achievement gap in the first place, including the ways this gap is measured by standardized testing. This is the movement to take up our ethical responsibility to halt business as usual, center Black voices in Black grassroots movements, and transform our education systems. So specifically, I join the call for LBUSD to hire more Black teachers, administrators, counselors, and support staff, and create environments that retain Black staff, and invest in the pipeline of Black educators. Fund art, music, science, technology, physical education, and after-school programs. Hire culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Mandate restorative, transformative justice programs. Fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism and anti-Blackness. Fund implicit bias mandatory trainings. Incorporate Black Lives Matter in curriculum. Mandate robust and ambiguous Black and ethnic studies. Defund LBPD. Cancel the contract with LBPD that assigns police officers to be stationed inside schools. Get rid of SROs, who are essentially LBUSD police that are stationed at school sites and patrol the district. Hire nurses, behavioral therapists, school psychologists, counselors, etc., etc. I am willing to support with these calls in any way I can. Thank you, Brianna Hinga, PhD, Associate Professor of Clinical Education, University of Southern California. Next, Tonia Reyes Uranga. I appreciate the effort of reaching out and scheduling a time to hear from our Black community, and I hope that this is not just an agenda item to say we listen and then move on. We all know the shameful numbers related to the achievement gap for our Black students, and let us not forget the English language learners, Pacific Islanders, and special ed students that join them in that extensive gap. As a resident of Area 2, I see families that should reflect the priorities of the district. Area 2 is home to a strong Pacific Islander, Cambodian, and Filipino population, a very large Latino population, many with English language learners in their households, and a strong, long-standing Black community. This is what LBUSD looks like. And if we all agree that all our students matter, then we must look at our budget priorities and match them with our student priorities. If our Black students matter, then we should ensure that LCAP and Title I dollars are directed to the individual students that need them most. Work hard to increase stakeholder engagement, especially for Black parents, in all aspects of the district decisions, especially in special education. Establish a hiring plan that includes affirmative outreach and hiring to people of color as administrators, paraprofessionals, support staff, and especially Black teachers. Provide alternatives to student disciplines such as restorative, transformative justice programs. Require schools to report demographics on school discipline. Hire culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, and behavioral specialists, expand ethnic studies to include Black studies, reassess the definition of a secure campus to include the social, emotional well-being of our students that rely more on the health and welfare of our students than suppression and discipline. By prioritizing our students of color, we prioritize all students. We need to change the way we look at our district and the way our money is allocated. It begins today. Tonia Reyes Uronga. Next is Cesar Armendariz. My name is Cesar Armendariz, zip code 90804, and I am commenting on item 25, equity policy. It has been refreshing to see a couple hundred LBUS teachers join a book club to tackle their own implicit bias and to tackle the institutional racism within our educational system. Props to Dr. Baker and Mr. Steinhauser for supporting these teachers wholeheartedly, even going as far as purchasing the books for them. Thank you, board members, for joining Zoom calls and online forums to learn about the Black struggle and to find new ways to support Black children. No one can deny that. Even in the midst of a pandemic, there is something special and beautiful happening globally and locally here in Long Beach. The community is stepping up and community leaders are responding to the movement, to the moment. And yet it is also clear to me that our moment of reconciliation has not yet arrived. I have not seen LBUSD officially acknowledge that systemic racism is real and that it is ingrained in our public institutions, including our own school district. I am hopeful that the reason this has not yet happened is because LBUSD is listening and wants to get it right. But if that's the case, I have two suggestions. First, don't take the microphone away from the Black moms, dads, and children whose voices are bringing so much healing and engagement to communities that have been left out. Their ideas, complaints, and suggestions are sparking conversations that will lead to meaningful progress and educational justice. It's unfortunate that the district and some of its representatives have responded with public statements focusing on the progress the district has made over the past couple decades. It's true, LBUSD has made a lot of progress and has led the nation in many areas. But in this moment, such a public focus on the achievements of the past have become walls that protect the status quo, while unintentionally dismissing the pain and the real struggles that children are currently facing. Let the children have the microphone while you turn up the volume so that the whole country can hear their pain. Take a step back and allow the progress that the district has made over the past couple decades to organically become a platform for these children to stand on and rise up. The second suggestion I have for the district is to present to the public your vision for the future of Black children. For example, does the district believe that it is possible to do away completely with the racial achievement gap? Do you believe that we can completely dismantle the school to prison pipeline? Time's up.
Okay, our next comment is from Arthi Harper. Dear LBUSD School Board, I am an East Long Beach 90814 LBUSD non-Black parent of non-Black children who is deeply concerned for how Black students are faring in our school district. Our city is currently implementing a framework for reconciliation to advance racial equity in our city systems. It is now time for LBUSD to make a similar systemic commitment to dismantling structural inequities. We cannot simply leave it up to the individual school leaders to implement programs at their discretion. We all know those end up as one-offs or sporadic with minimal accountability. I understand school districts prefer programs to policies, but on something like systemic racism and equity, we need a system-wide policy under which all practices and programs align. We need greater prioritization and inclusion of our Black students who, like their peers, are so full of promise and potential, but often penalized and undervalued by our systemic practices and policies. My suggested policy recommendations are: number one, establish ethnic studies as a graduation requirement for all students. This should not be a Saturday elective as it is now, but rather required learning on Native American, Black, Latinx, and Asian studies for all students. Our white students are especially in need of this education, as research shows primarily white, wealthier areas is where racism thrives, like East Long Beach. Number two, implement a district-wide restorative justice policy. One-off trainings like TIME and discretionary implementation of second step in elementary schools are not enough. LBUSD must implement restorative and holistic policies and practices across our district at all grade levels that serve as alternatives to suspension and support students' social and emotional well-being. Number three, require mandatory implicit bias and anti-racism trainings and professional development for all 10,000 plus employees. These must no longer be optional. All means all. Our staff practices must align with the framework's goal of eliminating systemic bias. Number four, re-envision and shift our school safety framework from a school security narrative to a student and community well-being focus, and reinvest in students by building them up and ending contracts with police department. We must stop the over-criminalization of Black students and students of color in and near our schools and provide more counseling, mental health, and family resource support. Number five, hire and promote more Black and teachers of color to managers. Okay. Next, we have Katie Balderas. Good morning. My name is Katie Balderas, and I live in Long Beach, 90815. I write in support of agenda item number 25, the equity policy. In support of Black students, I encourage the district to pass strong anti-racist reforms that focus on the following: funding art, music, science, physical education, and after-school programs. Hire more culturally competent academic and socio-emotional supports, including counselors, social workers, nurses, behavioral specialists, and librarians. Mandate and fully fund restorative justice programs to disrupt the school-to-prison pipelines. Invest in more robust, high-quality, affordable early childhood education for infants through kindergarten. Assess how to more equitably balance or distribute resources raised by parent-teacher associations. Schools with more affluent student bodies have the ability to raise large amounts of money to pay for supplemental learning opportunities that other schools do not have. Thank you for your consideration of these important issues. Best regards, Katie Balderas. Next, we have, hi, my name is Camilla Holmes. My zip code is 90806. I am a parent of 3 former LBUSD students and a grandparent of a future LBUSD student. This is for item number 25, equity policy. As you prepare for another school year, I am requesting that you do so in the spirit of striving for social and racial justice and best practices, with the goal of achieving the best outcomes for our students. With that in mind, it is critical that you examine and work to implement BLM Long Beach demands concerning the education of our district students. LBUSD must acknowledge the existence and the impacts of systemic racism within LBUSD and fund implicit bias year-round mandatory trainings. We know that racism infects every system that we come in contact with, and LBUSD is no different. Black students are more likely to be disciplined and more harshly disciplined than their white counterparts for the same behavior. Biases in teaching results in Black students not receiving equitable resources, attention, and support they need to thrive. I am the parent of a Black man who was educated in the LBUSD. During this time, he experienced and was witness to multiple instances of racial discrimination, racism, and blatant bigotry. In one of the most egregious examples, while my son was attending school at Carver Elementary, a group of white students attacked a disabled Black student. The only consequences for these students were that they were to be excluded from the end of the school year dance, although at least one of the students ended up at the dance anyway. I am certain that had the races of the students in this attack been reversed, the penalties would have been much more severe. After the attack, I had several conversations with the principal to express my dismay and outrage. She explained to me that things used to be much worse, as prior to my son's attendance, there was a concerted effort to exclude bused students who were primarily Black and brown from extracurricular school activities. In order for LBUSD to adequately serve its Black students, the district must first acknowledge the systemic racism embedded in the district and then work to remedy that. The district must provide and mandate comprehensive anti-racism, anti-bias training and facilitators, as well as implementation by continuing anti-racism best practices and progress tracking.
Patricia.
Additionally, LBUSD must hire more Black teachers. Years of studies show that Black have better outcomes both in the short and long term when they have Black teachers. Black students score higher on both math and reading when they're assigned.
Patricia, before you go on, let me just ask Jill.
Okay, next.
Before you go on, how much time do we have left remaining for comments?
Letitia and Lori are tracking time.
How much time do we have left?
How much time have we had? 10 more minutes.
Okay.
About 10 more minutes.
All right.
Okay, next we have Queen Hollins. Hi, I'm writing this letter because I am concerned about the inadequacies of education and concern for the overall well-being, mental, emotional, and physical of Black students, and honestly, all students. Because it affects Black students and affects all students, but my focus is primary on Black students. A couple of issues: there needs to be more art in the school that reflects the history and rich culture of Africa. On a history note, there needs to be a pre-colonial Black Africa teaching of history so that Black students and all students don't walk away feeling like the only contribution that Black people have ever made stemmed from slavery or the lies around emancipation. Also, the restoration of physical education, even bringing in cultural sports such as capoeira. These are just a few of my concerns. I believe that all history should be taught to reflect the participants in a way that will uplift them and tell the truth and create a powerful foundation on which they can stand on to be proud as individual human beings and the contributions that they have made to make America the place it is today. I support this endeavor, and I am a concerned grandmother of 3 Black grandsons. Thank you for taking the time out to read this. We all know that children need a fresh start, not a shamed start that will follow them for the rest of their lives. Sincerely, Queen L. Hollins. Next, we have Jane Rudden. Hi, my name is Jane Rudden, and I live in zip 12203. I am urging you to support anti-racist policy in schools and curriculum. Thank you. Jane Rudden, RN. Next, Kaylee Caruso. Hi, my name is Kaylee. My zip code is 90803, and this is for item number 25, equity policy. Gloria Ladson Billings, 2006, explains that the achievement gap, i.e. disparities in standardized test scores between Black, Indigenous, people of color, and white students, is one of the most talked about issues in U.S. education. She explains that a focus on this gap is misplaced. Rather, we have an education debt that has accumulated over time, including historical, economical, socio-political, and moral components. Our school systems are not serving our Black, Indigenous, and people of color by design. They are built on foundations of anti-Blackness and white supremacy that we need to disrupt. We need to transform the underlying systems that created this achievement gap in the first place, including the ways this gap is measured by standardized testing. This is the moment to take up our ethical responsibility to halt business as usual, center Black voices and Black grassroots movement leaders, and transform our education system. Specifically, I join the call for LBUSD to hire more Black teachers, administrators, counselors, and support staff, and create environments that retain Black staff and invest in the pipeline of Black educators. Fund art, music, science, and technology, physical education, and after-school programs. Hire culturally competent academic and socio-emotional counselors, nurses, non-carceral social workers, and behavioral specialists. Mandate restorative, transformative justice programs. Fully incorporate student-led bodies to provide input on school district decisions. Provide the full range of services to special education and academically disadvantaged students. Acknowledge the existence and impacts of systemic racism and anti-Blackness. Fund implicit bias mandatory trainings. Incorporate Black Lives Matter in curriculum. Mandate robust and ambiguous Black and ethnic studies. Defund LBPD. Cancel the contract with LBPD that assigns police officers to be stationed inside schools. Get rid of SROs, school resource officers, who are essentially LBUSD police that are stationed at school sites and patrol the district. To match this current climate and moment in this larger civil rights movement, it's not a question of whether these demands need to be met immediately, but why has it taken this long? We have to believe the Black community and their experiences. They know what is best for the community and children in LBUSD. Time's up.
Next, we have Spanish. Gloria.
Zaira Rodríguez. Buenos días, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Zaira Rodríguez. Represento a Latinos in Action. Mi comentario es acerca del artículo número 18. Mi comentario es que ya es tiempo que usted, como superintendente, y los miembros del board busquen la equidad para los estudiantes negros y de altas necesidades, padres con niños con diferentes necesidades, quienes son muy vulnerables, están pasando tiempos muy difíciles por no tener el apoyo y los servicios que deben tener los niños. Urge que el distrito sea inclusivo, contratando maestros negros, incluyendo en su currículum las vidas negras importan. Gracias, Zaira Rodríguez. Good day, Superintendent and board members. My name is Zaira Rodríguez. I represent Latinos in Action. My comment is about item number 18. My comment is that it is time that you, as superintendent and board members, seek equity for Black and high-needs students. Parents with children with different needs who are very vulnerable are having a very difficult time because they do not have the support and the services that children should have. There is an urgent need for the district to be inclusive in hiring Black teachers and to include Black Lives Matter in their curriculum. Thank you, Zaira Rodríguez.
Next, we have Deborah Hillard. My zip code is 90813. I'm writing to stress the need for a support system for Black students and ethnic studies programs. Next is Spanish.
María Álvarez. Buenos días, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es María Álvarez. Mi comentario es acerca al artículo número 25. Soy miembro del Sindicato de Padres con Latinos in Action y colaboradores con Children's Defense California. Gracias por la oportunidad de poder expresar mis peticiones. Creo que algo muy importante es que el distrito empiece a valorar las perspectivas de padres y estudiantes negros y morenos en los procesos de involucramiento público del distrito y fomentar la solidaridad racial organizando grupos de enfoque virtuales, juntas abiertas al público y sesiones de estudio de presupuesto. Urge consideren e incluyan el proceso de involucramiento de estudiantes y padres negros y morenos. Espero que consideren mi petición. Good day, Superintendent and board members. My name is Maria Alvarez. My comment is about item number 25. I am a member of the Union of Parents with Latinos in Action and collaborators with Children's Defense California. Thank you for the opportunity to express my requests. I believe it is very important that the district begin to value the perspectives of Black and Brown parents and students in the district's public involvement processes, and to foster racial solidarity by organizing virtual focus groups, public meetings, and budget study sessions. It is urgent to consider including Black and Brown students and parents in the process of public involvement. I hope you will consider my request. Thank you, Maria Alvarez.
Okay, next we have, my name is Elizabeth Parks Kibbe. My zip code is 90803, and this is for item number 25, equity policy. I am a parent at Fremont Elementary, and I'm writing because we desperately need anti-racist reforms in our school systems. While I am generally heartened by the commitment in LBUSD to uplifting Black students, if we have learned anything in the past 3 to 6 months, we have learned that we need to do much, much more. Number one, we need more information and support for the Coalition of Involved African American Parents. I'm not sure my school site has information and access to this group, which I had never heard of until I did research to inform my comment on this agenda item. When I visited the district website and clicked on the link to the CIAA, the most recent information is for the 2019-2020 school year. I am aware of a diversity and inclusion chair at Fremont, but the position is newly filled. I want the CIAA to have a presence on every campus in LBUSD and for their work to be centered and widely publicized. Number two, I also want anti-racist education opportunities such as in Parent University for white parents and parents who identify as people of color who are not Black to learn about anti-Blackness and the impact on education, schools, and our students. Thank you for considering my comments. This is from Kenneth Hollins. His zip code is 70094. This message is in favor of item number 25, equity policy. The schools need anti-racist reforms for all students. Next, we have, this is an additional comments by Ms. Kibbe, who I just read. She wanted to also include that this past year, 2019-20, I was a VIP and worked in my child's classroom. There were Black students in particular that were struggling, and there was enough support for the Black students and families. The classroom teacher was doing everything in her power to provide support, but needed more support in order to know how to help those students best. We have to do more to boost our Black students who have been the victims of a racist society from birth. There needs to be more help, more directed services, more education from parents, teachers, and fellow non-Black students on how to support and care for these learners. Next comment is in Spanish.
Susana Lubiano. Buenos días, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Susana Lubiano, miembro de Latinos in Action. Mi comentario es acerca al artículo número 18. Quiero expresarles que urge consideren e incluyan en el proceso de involucramiento de estudiantes y padres negros y morenos. Es tiempo que fomenten la solidaridad racial organizando grupos de enfoques virtuales. Como madre latina, sé que no ser incluidos en algo que nos hace más vulnerables y muchas veces no queremos ser parte de reuniones por el sentimiento de ser discriminados. Así que mi petición es que valoren las perspectivas de nuestros hermanos negros. Gracias. Good day, Superintendent and board members. My name is Susana Lubiano, member of Latinos in Action. My comment is about item number 18. I want to express to you that it is urgent that you consider including Black and Brown students and parents in the process of involvement. It is time that you promote racial solidarity by organizing virtual focus groups. As a Latina mother, I know that not being included is something that makes us more vulnerable. And many times we do not want to be part of the meetings because of the feeling of being discriminated against. So my request is that you value the perspectives of our Black brothers and sisters. Thank you, Susana Lubiano. Digna Méndez. Buenos días, superintendente y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Digna Acuña, representando a Latinos in Action. Mi comentario es acerca del artículo número 18. Por muchos años hemos estado trabajando junto con otros padres y organizaciones. Como madre de 3 niños asistiendo a LBUSD, me siento comprometida a levantar la voz en solidaridad por las familias y los estudiantes negros, quienes han sido discriminados por años y años. Como madre latina me identifico con ellos, ya que también he sentido la discriminación. ¿Queremos parar esto? Entonces escuchen las recomendaciones e incluyan desde temprana edad la enseñanza de las vidas negras importan. Good day, Superintendent and board members. My name is Digna Acuña, representing Latinos in Action. My comment is about item number 18. For many years, we have been working together with other parents and other organizations. As a mother of 3 children attending LBUSD, I feel committed to raising my voice in solidarity for Black families and students who have been discriminated against for years and years. As a Latina mother, I identify with them as I have felt the discrimination as well. Do we want to stop this? Then listen to the recommendations and include from an early age the teaching of Black Lives Matters. Thank you, Digna Méndez.
Okay, this is the last email that was submitted. It's from Parastu Tarani. To whom it may concern, our son is going to be entering 2nd grade at Lowell Elementary School, and despite all of the outstanding work by his teacher, we had a chance to experience the failures of distant learning. The shortcomings are not just the educational, but also the mental health for these young children that puts them at significant long-term risks here. Children need the social interactions with their peers. These children are showing signs of anxiety and depression, and something needs to be done for them. As a concerned parent, I do not understand why the schools cannot open if all the safety precautions are in place. Even during Spanish flu, the schools were held outdoors. The schools have huge playgrounds that can be used as outdoor classrooms. This could be done with good safety measures in place to keep both the children and teachers safe. Respectfully submitted, Parastu Tarani.
That was the last comment, President.
Letitia, thank you, and Gloria, the other young lady whose name I can't.
Lori was reading also.
Lori, thank you all for reading the comments from our folks in the community. And for those comments that were not read, that information will be given to each board member. And we want to thank you one and all for your comments. We're now moving on to staff reports. There are none. Public testimony on items not listed on the agenda. Are you ready to go, Letitia? Okay, let's go.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
This is from Jean Van Buchanan. Just a second. Sorry. Members of the Board of Education, I write to you as a LBUSD parent and as a concerned citizen of Long Beach. I wish to address LBUSD's planning for online learning in the fall. I understand the reasons why LBUSD has chosen to move to online learning only in the fall. However, please understand that the great majority of parents are of the opinion that a return to anything like this past spring is simply unacceptable. It is widely understood that the district had to act quickly in the spring in response to an unprecedented and completely unpredictable situation. Let me point out, however, that this is not the case for this fall. For this reason, parents expect that a set of standards will be put in place so that all stakeholders understand the heightened expectation with regard to the quantity and quality of online learning this fall. Some ideas for implementation, largely gleaned from a recent LA Times op-ed by its editorial board, include a requirement of live lessons for a significant portion of each day. The total amount of teaching time should be similar to what it would be in the classroom, and worksheets, lesson planning, or grading homework should not be counted as instructional time. Teachers would be doing a tremendous disservice to students and the public if it fails to readily agree with these standards. And principals should be regularly tapping into classes to see how instruction is going, offering teachers guidance and setting standards for the kind of instruction that's required. A student's learning shouldn't rise or fall by the happenstance of who's at the head of the Zoom room. Firm rules on the quantity and quality of instructional time should also be set a basic responsibility. Lastly, some rules must be set for when schools should physically reopen and at what grade levels. It goes without saying that the youngest students, those who are still learning to read in order to read to learn, should be prioritized in terms of a return to in-person instruction. When a reopening of schools does occur, hopefully on October 5th, these students should be allowed to return first, with other students remaining at home to allow for social distancing at the schools. As the virus situation improves, other students at higher grades should be gradually returned. But those with the most to lose, our youngest, should get back to the classroom setting as soon as possible. I thank you for your time and consideration. I have the utmost trust and respect for LBUSD and know that they have and have had a tough time to carry out, a tough job to carry out. I am hopeful that the district will approach the start of the school year thoughtfully, methodically, and with the care that this unique and fragile situation requires. Jean Van Buchanan. Next one is from Robert Collins. Good evening. I started complaining in November that LBUSD was not following board policy ensuring that every student was receiving age-appropriate related instruction and information about sexual harassment. On June 8, I finally received a reply from Mr. David Zaid. LBUSD acknowledged it has to implement pre-planned systemic instruction to ensure all students receive appropriate information and instruction regarding sexual harassment. The district also acknowledged that it must document when formalized training takes place. This is good news and will help keep our kids safer. It's disappointing, however, that the district did not acknowledge it had made a mistake by not ensuring all kids received age-appropriate sexual harassment information and instruction. Originally, Ms. Dalton in Human Resources told me she was responsible for making sure schools implemented this board policy. Later, Superintendent Steinhauser told me he was responsible and his designee was Ruth Paris Ashley. Whomever was responsible at district office simply did not do their job, leading to an unsafe environment for our children. If appropriate sexual harassment instruction had been done completely at Tincher and Rogers, would this have stopped my son from being harassed in the words, "Are you gay and how big is your pussy?" Maybe. We will never know. Would it have kept his friend from being harassed with comments about her sexual orientation and oral sex? Maybe. Again, we will never know. Mr. David Zaid wrote to me that many teachers were implementing sexual harassment training in an organic, non-pre-planned way. He used this phrase, organic, non-pre-planned way, several times in his response to me. As a former teacher, I know it's great when teachers use teachable moments to reinforce the content already taught, but the content must be taught first. Can you imagine if we taught math using only organic, non-pre-planned ways, or reading with only organic, non-pre-planned ways, or history in an organic, non-pre-planned way? Further, school administrators were unaware of these organic, non-pre-planned ways. It seems to me that Mr. Zaid was, well, bullshitting. LBUSD, please stop bullshitting. Parents and our students deserve better. Mr. Zaid further wrote, We would like to begin at the elementary level, developing age-appropriate curriculum that each of the schools will be required to present and track. This is not acceptable. All students, all LBUSD students need age-appropriate. Okay. This is from Kate Brown. Esteemed school board members, my name is Kate Brown. I am a rising senior at Millikan High School and a member of the LBUSD branch of Diversify Our Narrative. I feel very lucky to have been educated in the Long Beach Unified School District for the past 12 years and am primarily interested in the success and well-being of LBUSD students. We know that the Long Beach Unified School District is one that prioritizes diversity and inclusion and wish only to further the enforcement of these ideals within the curriculum. The recently publicized killings of innocent Black Americans have made it clear to us that direct action must be taken to combat the systemic, internalized racism that plagues our society. Because education is instrumental in shaping the next generation of Americans, we believe that reforming school curriculum will be one of our greatest tools in raising young people to be actively anti-racist and contentious. We also believe that implementing stories written by people of color and anti-racist texts would foster a greater sense of community between students of different races and encourage the success of Long Beach's many students of color. Long Beach is a city with beautiful diversity, and we believe that our curriculum must evolve to better support this diversity. We hope that you will acknowledge our suggestions and consider implementing them into the high school curriculum. Thank you for your time. I will now pass it on to our final speaker, Nicole Weaver. This one is from Nicole Weaver. Hello, my name is Nicole Weaver. I am with the LBUSD Diversify Our Narrative campaign. RT have previously contacted you regarding speaking at the board meeting tomorrow, July 20th, 2020, but we did not hear back, so I'm emailing you my speech. In the group of 4, I am the last speaker. Thank you. My speech is as follows. Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Weaver, and I'm a rising senior at Millikan High School. I stand here today with 4 fellow LBUSD Diversify Our Narrative members as a voice for all the students, teachers, parents, and alumni who support our campaign, in which we are asking that at least one book in every English or literature class be written by a person of color and about their experiences. In Long Beach Unified Schools, we students are extremely lucky and grateful for the education given to us. However, we see that there is room to improve our education for the benefit of all LBUSD high school students, and as board members who actively encourage kids to indulge themselves in the deepest, richest education possible. I encourage you to listen and hear us, and ultimately help us accomplish the goals you set for us and dig even deeper into the education we are presented with. LBUSD educates around 80,000 students, and the majority of these students are Black, Hispanic, and Asian. Their voices have been left out and overlooked, making them seem invisible and unwanted, breeding a culture of hatred towards our fellow classmates, where they fear to speak up about the injustices brought upon them within the gates of school. We pride ourselves on our diversity, yet our literature leaves out the voices and experiences of those who are not white. Oftentimes, if their stories are to be told, they are from the words of an author who is white. Students must research and learn for ourselves on our own time the history and literature that we were not taught. As educators and board members, it is your job to uplift the voices of these students, to properly teach us their history and culture so we can be accepting of others. Because their voices do matter, and it is imperative that we grow up hearing them, as we cannot learn to be accepting if we are constantly taught from one main perspective and refuse to experience the others. As we mentioned, failing to teach students from a diverse perspective where all people and their identities are acknowledged and appreciated encourage these students to be discriminated against and feel unwelcomed. We would like to highlight this with 2 anonymous student testimonies. I've heard many students at my school threaten to say the N-word. There is also somewhat of a separation of races at my school.
all the Asian students sit together while all the Hispanics sit together. I was highly encouraged to say 2 racial slurs. Next is Angelica Salazar. Hello, my name is Angelica Salazar, and I have a public testimony for today's school board meeting on items not on the agenda. Good afternoon. My name is Angelica Salazar, and I am the Director of Education Equity at the Children's Defense Fund, California. For the past 7 years, we have collaborated with parent and youth, serving organizations to transform the academic and social emotional services schools offer to better serve high-need students and students of color in Long Beach. More recently, we have also collaborated with LBUSD to transform the manner in which the district engages stakeholders and specifically parents. At this morning's special board meeting, I heard a lot of energy behind stakeholder engagement process from district staff. I value, appreciate, and understand the time and effort that goes into not just convening stakeholders, also in supporting everyone to be heard, whether they have positive or constructive feedback, but especially in going beyond listening and taking action by making decisions based on stakeholder input. A few aspects of the district stakeholder engagement process related to the reopening of schools and the budget were very disheartening to me and fall short of meaningful engagement. First, I am very disappointed that only 3 parents were in the school's reopening committee. After almost a decade of LCFF, I'd expect much more equitable representation in such a committee. The home learning survey did not adequately pick up the perspectives of the parents of high-need students, with some groups being underrepresented. I expected efforts to be made to make up for this gap in an in-person committee. I also see the superintendent's advisory committee as inadequate and lacking meaning because it reflects past patterns of handpicking a small group rather than targeting parents, students, and stakeholders who are traditionally overlooked and underrepresented in an open dialogue and in district decision-making. However groups are convened, I also want to urge LBUSD to reconsider how feedback and recommendations from students, parents, and stakeholders can be reflected in concrete and specific terms into the budget. While as an event, the LCAP Community Forum itself has been transformed over time, it has rendered little in the way of feedback being adopted into budget or policy decisions. For this year, I am unclear how the Superintendent Advisory Committee will shape the budget. Specifically, if the group will start to convene close to when the budget decisions are made, instead of starting in June, as many of us had expected and requested. Like others have stated before me, I urge you to embrace the perspectives of Black and Brown parents and students and foster racial.
Okay, next we have, good afternoon, LBUSD board members. My name is True Jones, and I am here with Anaya Lewis, Kate Brown, and Nicole Weaver to present to you the Diversify Our Narrative campaign. Over 450 students from all over the district have signed the petition, and we are here representing 22 of our fellow campaign organizers. While we are thankful to all of our teachers for the countless hours of preparation that goes into our lessons, we believe that the curriculum is lacking in one key component. Although the textbooks are updated periodically, what many history books fail to provide is the other perspective. This is why we are encouraging the school board to include at least one book by a person of color in each history and English class. In history classes, this will give students the opportunity to learn about the other side of the narrative they are taught. As far as English classes, this change can inspire and relate students because they will have the opportunity to read a book written by a successful author of their own race. Our main goal is to instill a cultural diversity in our curriculum, starting with high school students and eventually passing it down to all levels of education. To expand on the DON campaign, Anaya will be our next speaker, but I didn't get it. Next, we have Varo Asorian. and I live in Long Beach and teach at Millikan. I have a master's in education technology. One of the required classes had us evaluate and use 4 different platforms. Canvas is by far the best. It is user-friendly and easy to learn how to use. It integrates lessons, discussion boards, quizzes, and tests. This integration is far superior to Google Classroom, which I have used daily for 3 years. It allowed for multiple file types and integrates video amongst other things. The discussion boards will be invaluable to keep our students engaged and interacting with their peers, which will enhance both understanding and learning outcomes. It is one of the features I like the most, and it integrates easily into any lesson or assignment. We've spent years in LBUSD to limit direct instruction, and this feature will allow for collaborative conversations to continue with or without synchronous classes. I urge you to choose Canvas as the LBUSD learning management platform, as it will provide our students and parents with the consistency they seek and the platform administrators and teachers need to provide robust, meaningful lessons. Thank you for your consideration.
The next one is from Steve Kirchhoff. Dear board members, thank you for the opportunity to express my disappointment in the decision not to open, although I understand that since that decision, the state has mandated the conditions by which we must do online learning this fall. My wife and I have had at least one student in this district for the last 22 years. During this time, we have watched our innovative superintendents, Cohn and Steinhauser, create great success that truly benefited thousands of students. LBUSD has won numerous awards and provided incredible opportunities, especially when compared to other districts with similar demographic and income disparities. In his letter on June 1st, Board President Felton Williams expressed what I believe to be shared sentiments about our district and how it serves the community well. I cite the letter's closing sentence, which says, "We double our resolve to continue serving as a beacon of learning, tolerance, and hope." Only 6 weeks since Mr. Felton's letter, our district is only proven to have no resolve. On July 14th, newly appointed Superintendent Baker stated, "We pay close attention to the decisions of other districts," referring to Los Angeles and San Diego. This statement leaves me wondering, where is the resolve? Where is the hope? Next time we decide what to do in this matter, please stand by the data. Stand by pediatricians' advice, and most of all, be leaders, not followers. The data shows that in the state of California, not a single person under the age of 18 has died from COVID-19. In Long Beach alone, 92% of all COVID-19 related deaths are people who are 60 years of age and older. 100% of deaths in Long Beach involve people with underlying health conditions. Therefore, we can allow our kids to be physically present while allowing for a small minority of at-risk teachers to have the option of online instruction. Furthermore, Mrs. Baker's filter completely disregarded children's well-being and could have paid attention to our pediatricians who have stated, "The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly advocates that all policy considerations for the coming school year should start with the goal of having students physically present in school. Moreover, online learning will continue to be a disadvantage to the less fortunate demographics that we have so successfully served in the past." Finally, Long Beach has had innovations such as uniforms, school choice, and a strong working relationship with Long Beach City College and Long Beach State. I fear that our so-called resolve has not doubled and that our beacon is being replaced by the dark shadow of our failing districts and their sordid past, which will soon become our future. Thank you.
Next, we have Allison Cripp regarding recreational aids. I received my first evaluation as a recreational aide this year. This was my first evaluation in 3 years of working there. The evaluation was all positive, and I appreciate our principal and her hard work navigating how to manage her recreational aids through a tough year end, even prior to COVID. I also was awarded acknowledgement by the CAC from the All Means All Committee for my work as a recreational aide at our school site. But why did I get a good evaluation and this acknowledgement? In the 3 years working at my school site, I have never gone through a training outside of a handbook that I received when I was first hired and a handbook given to me the 2 years after that before school started. Our school is one of the only sites left that has a rec aid supervisor. She, the supervisor, has been at our school for almost 20 years and used to teach PE, had full-time hours and benefits. She has had full control of what is ordered for equipment, what games are played on the playground, and also has had no formal training except time. Her hours also have been cut to what is allowed by the district due to budget cuts for recreational aids year after year. For the past few years, our PTA has fundraised and paid for the extra hours to keep our IOA in a full-time position at our school, and just last year gifted $10,000 to our school to pay for an extra rec aid for the 2019-20 school year. Currently, rec aides are not allowed to work more than 3.75 hours in a day. As of this year, one of those hours counts as classified and the other 2.75 as hourly. Those hours are not in a row. They are set up as where supervision is needed and could be 15 minutes to 1.5 hours each shift. Why am I bringing all of this up? Since I have been there, these jobs have been given mostly to parents that don't work and want to be around their kids more. Me, for example. Since I have been there, I have seen favoritism, bullying, old school discipline by those that are hired to be the front lines to our kids while on the playground. This year, our supervisor had to go on personal leave for a bit. When she left, we realized there was nothing in place for the principal or rec aides for the duties of the job. I was reprimanded for bringing a kickball and red rubber ball out for the 30 minutes before school started, so the kids would have something else to do outside of hitting each other with their zip-up sweatshirts. Where's number 9? Okay. Next, we have Mariela Salgado. This morning, we heard from the district regarding a superintendent advisory committee member to engage community stakeholders and, more importantly, parents regarding 2021 budget. However, membership comprises of 18 various groups and organizations like Teachers Union, My Parents in Action, NAACP, and others, with no guidelines to ensure and include LBUSD parents with no district employment affiliation. Parents are seeking to have input and not a preset menu on a survey. Furthermore, by setting up this committee, you have excluded parents who are not connected to such groups to provide feedback and real experiences. I challenge the district and board member representatives to provide the opportunity to engage and develop a budget through a community-driven process that reflects the demands of our high-needs children, newcomers, foster youth, and Black families for academic success with majority parent representation. We also learned this morning through the CARES Act that our district will have an additional $62 million in federal funds to be utilized by December 30th, 2020 to support our students and provide wraparound services. This is key for parents as we are seeking to ensure our high-need kids and those in underserved areas have priority access to technology, academic support services, and social emotional learning opportunities to monitor and support our students' mental health. It is crucial we provide targeted support and resources to parents in multiple languages so they can support their children through any of the 3 models presented this morning: full day at school, hybrid, and full day at home. I often think of my mother, who was a Spanish speaker with less than an elementary education. What would she need and do? We have an opportunity and funding to look at our learning with an equity lens, and disappointed that much of what I heard this morning does not include sufficient parent engagement or how we will monitor the effectiveness of these tools to ensure we are in fact maintaining our children online, especially kids of color, and minimizing loss of learning. Legislators require districts, LBUSD, to present at 2 public hearings on the learning continuity plan and adopt by September 20th. Districts are also required to reach out to parents to ask, among other issues, what distance learning should look like. The opening committee had already designed constructs with a small representative body. I challenged the district and board members to give ample opportunity for parents to provide input and best practices and ensure, okay. That is it. We conclude the public testimony.
Thank you, Letitia, and thank you, Jody. Really appreciate it. We are now going to move the agenda. We're at business items, personnel. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I present the following proposed actions prepared by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resource Services, approved and recommended by the Superintendent. Classified and exempt personnel, appointments 289, leaves of absence 6, suspension without pay 1, resignations 13, retirement 6, amendments 9. Certificated personnel, appointments 83, in-service changes 329, leaves of absence 4, separations deceased 1, resignations 4, retirements 12, amendments 1, and I move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out congratulations to Mary Jo Wegner, who is retiring. It says after 52 years of service, but I know that she is the most senior teacher of our certificated students starting in the district in 1965 and has been at Longfellow Elementary since before my children were there. So I just want to thank her for her 50 plus years of service to our students and congratulate her. I know we've got several teachers on this list with more than 3 decades worth of work, but I thought it notable to commend Ms. Wegner on her service to our district.
Thank you, Megan. Further discussion? Roll call vote. All in favor? Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Instruction.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Yes, Mr. President, I think it would be good for our public, since there's several new CTE courses and curriculum being developed. I think this could give a good opportunity for either Pamela and or Christy to talk a little bit about what approach our district is using in developing new courses, given that we are planning for 100% being remote September 1st, but that may change, may or may not change later. So I'm wondering if, again, either Pamela or Christy could talk a little bit about what approach we're using in developing new curriculum.
Okay.
And also, while they're there, if they could speak to item number 9, the funding to support Native American students would be great as well.
I'm happy to start, and Christy can join me afterwards. I'll start by looking at the math courses that you see that are the first item on the instruction report as an example of the development process that we engage in. These courses represent 2 types of additional support structures for students. The development courses are designed to be paired with the core grade level course to support students as they engage in grade level content while addressing misunderstandings and gaps from the previous year. That is, students who struggled in a previous course.
The accelerated development courses are an example of our equity and excellent efforts in curriculum development. They're designed to support students enrolled in an accelerated course who might not have met the enrollment criteria, but whom with support we believe can access and participate in a more rigorous or accelerated course. As we, teachers, coaches, and curriculum developers, have learned more about and can predict where students will need more support in the content, we've developed structured lessons in these courses with specific strategies to build students' conceptual understanding of math while addressing any procedural gaps. So these development courses are not meant to simply be more time or more of the same instruction as the core course, but rather adjust strategically the mathematical standards learning progression, using structured lessons to support students to continue to perform at grade level or accelerate to a more rigorous course of study in math. And how do we think about digital learning when we develop these courses? Built into the courses are digital pedagogy strategies to engage students in live instruction. The lessons are very structured so that students are addressing what we know from our past experience will be the gaps that will that may present themselves and may prevent students from really being in a rigorous course of study that addresses conceptual math. The CTE courses that are on the instruction report tonight, one is for Millikan Peace Academy, Constitutional Law. That is a relatively older pathway, but as pathways evolve and are structured to meet the needs of the students, as well as to conform with the guidance from the CDE, they are recreating courses in their pathway structures, and that's what constitutional law is. Secondly, the Carrillo course, robotics and technology, is again responding to the industry standards to provide students with authentic experiences in their career technical education sequences. Ms. Kerr, you mentioned the item on the instruction report for our EONA program, our Native American program. This is an application for continued funding that supports our students who have identified as Native American. That is a small population in the district, approximately 30 students. However, we continue to leverage that funding to provide additional outreach for parent education, homework help, and instructional support for those students.
Thank you, Ms. Seki.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, call for the vote, roll call vote. Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report A.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Felton, I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report B.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I recuse myself from participation in Finance Report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the payees.
Further discussion. Call for the vote. Roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved 4-0 with one recusal. Business Department report.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Purchasing and contract reports A.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? I have a question on items 66 and 67 in the report. The question is, given the fact that we received funding through the Carl B. Perkins program for our technical education programs, how do these programs align with that? Can somebody respond to that question? As I mentioned, we received funding, federal funding through the Carl B. Perkins program for our technical education programs. These two programs are designed to provide technical education as well. How do they fit within the framework of the Carl B. Perkins program?
Dr. Williams, Dr. Camarino is going to address your question.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Williams. Thank you for the opportunity. The reason for the rationale behind the Rancho Santiago connection to that is it's a community college chancellor's office grant that we received, and it is funding our 8th through 10th grade students to give them opportunities, or especially our students that are underrepresented in different programs and having the connection. The other part of the grant is also for our 11th and 12th graders, where we're going to really push on dual enrollment for our students and having opportunities for our schools like Jordan and Cabrillo to have dual enrollment classes being given at the university, at the high schools themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Camarino. All right, further discussion. Roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Purchasing and contracts report B.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I recuse myself from participation in purchasing and contract report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the awardee.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved 4-0 with 1 recusal. We are now at other items, superintendent items. Williams, UCP third quarterly report.
Thank you. On behalf of the superintendent and Ms. Secchi, this policy is a recommendation that the fourth quarterly report be received by the governing board and that staff be authorized to provide a copy of the report to the county superintendent of schools.
Thank you. We are now at administrative items. Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. It's my pleasure to make the following recommendations for assignments and promotions on the effective dates listed. Starting in the early learning and elementary schools division. Lachelle Diggs from principal at Grant to the director of Head Start. Demita Myers from principal at Gompers to director, principal supervisor in the elementary office. Ev Mute from assistant director, deputy superintendent's office in leadership development to the principal at Emerson Elementary School. Liseth Ramos from vice principal Measure E and the elementary office to principal at Los Cerritos Elementary School. Veronica Madrigal from principal at Henry to principal at Grant. Rose Vitetta from principal at Emerson to principal at Henry. Alyssa Gamboa from principal at Los Cerritos to principal Roosevelt Elementary. And that concludes the promotions and reassignments in early learning and elementary schools. To middle and K-8 schools. Linda Reynolds from assistant principal at Nieto Herrera to the principal at Gompers K-8. In the high school division, Ed Samuels, recently assigned to be the assistant to the superintendent in the superintendent's office, moving to the director in the principal supervisor in the high school office. and Grant Robinson, a teacher on special assignment at Millikan High School, to the activity specialist position at Millikan High School. And lastly, 2 non-level changes. Tammy Lavelle, currently principal at Roosevelt, to the assistant to the superintendent in the superintendent's office, and Angelica Gonzalez, currently director and principal supervisor in the elementary office, to director in the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development. These conclude the recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Congrats to all.
I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Congrats to each and every one of the individuals who are on their new assignments, and also the ones who have been promoted. Further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. We're at unfinished business. There is none. New business, board meeting schedule.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Let's review. That will be on Wednesday, the 5th of August. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, further discussion? We call for the vote, roll call vote. All in favor, Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Now we move to equity policy, and the purpose of this motion is to direct staff to engage in putting together a policy on equity for the district. That is the motion. I'm sorry, that is the purpose of this policy. Okay, having said that, let me turn it over to Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce this item for your consideration. As the district organizes to deepen its efforts to advance a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, tonight you are being asked to approve an action that activates a new level of engagement and discussion about policies and practices in LBUSD. This action comes at a time when our entire community is working to develop means for reconciliation, acknowledgement, healing, and change. This board has examples of taking bold action in its stance on equity. A recent example was the board's approval of an inclusive practices resolution in February of 2019 that grew out of the work of the CAC and Parent Voice. This resolution made public the beliefs of the Board of Education and your commitment to leading and supporting the all means all work within LBUSD. A number of active projects will provide starting points for an equity leadership team to begin to develop recommendations for policy, practices, funding, and future initiatives. LBUSD is actively working with Californians for Justice to uplift youth voice in informing the direction of the district. There's currently an equity design team that includes half students and the other half administrators, teachers, and community-based adults working side by side. In addition, the district is currently completing the deliverables connected to a Wallace Foundation exploratory grant that is aimed at bringing clarity on how the district currently defines equity and how the district might better center equity in the future. This grant, which will complete in the month of August, will result in a set of qualitative data from interviews with students, staff, and community adults that could be used by a district equity leadership team. The background on this policy is that Long Beach Unified School District has demonstrated a long-term commitment to advancing a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda through its policies, practices, fundings, and initiatives. Over the past decade, the district has open access to advanced placement courses, developed male and female academies, and an ethnic studies program. In the past 2 years, additional efforts have ensued to bring student voices and parent voices into the district's work on diversity, equity, and inclusive practices. This has included the Board of Education passing an inclusive practices resolution, a number of partnership activities aimed to increase the diversity of our workforce, and the development of an equity design team, bringing together teachers, administrators, and students into a community to develop policy and practice recommendations while actively working together to address systemic inequities. The recommendation tonight is that the Board of Education shall direct staff to engage in the development of a district equity leadership team, including students, stakeholders, partners, parents, teachers, and administrators. This equity leadership team will be tasked with making recommendations for policy, practices, funding, and future initiatives.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. If I can get a motion, we can move into discussion on this.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we're open for discussion.
Dr. Baker, thank you so much for making the recommendation to move forward on developing an equity resolution. I think as you suggested, this gives our district the ability to dismantle our institutional racism and structural inequities through budget considerations, through policies, through practices, and through initiatives that in some cases we already have and we can build and make stronger and strengthen. And in other cases, we can be innovative. So I love your reference to our Wallace Foundation work that allows for us to be innovative and creative. So I want to thank you and the team for providing this recommendation for us to consider. I think it also allows us to align it with other potential vehicles for us to advance our equity agenda, but more specifically our racial equity agenda. One of our speakers earlier tonight during our testimony mentioned revisiting our Long Beach Promise, right? And the possibility to do that through a racial equity lens and looking at best practices and what's worked and where there are areas for opportunities. Last month, I also referred to, in a few of the speakers tonight, also the framework for reconciliation that our city and our Long Beach City College adopted last month. I think there's also an opportunity to consider those things as well. And in particular, I love the comments you made earlier, Dr. Baker. It provides us an opportunity to acknowledge formally, to listen. And so, again, going back to our conversation from our morning workshop, to have formal spaces, right, where we can listen and where our community stakeholders feel like they are being listened to, through us also being a convener and a catalyst for those listening sessions to then translate, again, into mechanisms whereby we advance equity concretely. So I wholeheartedly support this recommendation. I think it allows for our district to do at least two things right now, right, which is to assemble a team to start looking at these things and looking at what other equity policies and resolutions look like. But I think it also affirms that we are listening, right, that our board is listening, our staff is listening, and that's being converted into, again, practices, policies, budget considerations, and initiatives. So I'm very appreciative of this. And again, I wholeheartedly support our staff getting that team together and starting to put that resolution together.
Further
Well said,
discussion.
Dr. Benitez. Dr. Williams, if I may, maybe I missed it, but Dr. Baker, I hope we're including our classified staff members who have ample opportunity to interact with our kids, be wonderful role models with them. I remember so fondly an African-American man, Sam, who was our custodian at Lowell Elementary School and then moved on to Rogers. He was a wonderful role model for all of our kids and the kind of a wonderful individual that we should have. So I hope we include our classified staff as well.
Thank you, John. Further discussion.
Yes, Dr. Baker, I want to thank you for bringing this forward, and to Dr. Williams and Dr. Baker for allowing the communications piece tonight. I think for me, the importance of having so many diverse perspectives invited into the room as we begin this conversation is really to uplift that there are multiple perspectives within our Black community who all bring value and richness to the conversations that we need to continue to have. There was a reference to the book club that's meeting, and I am honored to be a part of one of those small groups. And we're currently reading the book by Dr. Bettina Love, We Want to Do More Than Survive. And I want to read a quote from the book. It says, "For dark folks, thriving cannot happen without a community that is deeply invested in racial uplift, human and workers' rights, affordable housing, food and environmental justice, land rights, free or affordable health care, healing, joy, cooperative economic strategies, and high political participation that is free from heteropatriarchy, homophobia, Islamophobia, transphobia, sexism, ageism, and the politics of respectability." Again, that's Dr. Bettina Love. And I think the voices that we brought into the room earlier represent some of those other partnerships that we need to be connected to help bring in those aspects that are the non-educational aspects of this work so that we as a community can uplift our students and families. So I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I also want to thank the voices that spoke in support of this. Latinos in Action. We know that Central Chalk, My Parents Associations, and dozens of other agencies are really lifting up this work right now and amplifying our Black community in this moment. And I want to thank them for that work. And I look forward to that. I also do want to mention, and this was spoken of last time, that as we begin this work, we understand that where our students learn matter. And while our buildings are currently closed, they won't always be closed. And that the names on our buildings matter. And I would ask, as we begin this new administration, Dr. Baker, under your leadership, that you reconvene and reactivate the school naming advisory committee to be able to do some of the work and have the hard conversations that I think we need to have potentially over the next school year. So as we're looking to mobilize community members to make sure that that's an area that I would like us to do as well as we do this equity work. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Further discussion?
Yes. I would also like to thank Dr. Baker and everybody else involved for furthering this work. And I appreciate that we're hearing from a diverse group of people in solidarity with our Black community. I think it's noteworthy that the majority of the people, well, it seems like the majority of the people that we heard from are allies and want to further this work as well. And I think somebody said it's the tide that lifts all boats. And I think that's the right way of looking at it. And I appreciate everybody speaking up who helps us to sharpen our equity lens and and do the right thing. I also appreciate the fact that we take our time to do things and it doesn't feel like a knee-jerk reaction to anything that's going on. It feels like it's deliberate and intentional. And I think that's the kind of work we focus on, and that's the kind of work we do best, where we include our stakeholders and and do what's right by our kids. So thank you again for all that.
Thank you, Diana. I also want to add, Jill, that I'm glad to see the district at this particular place and time. At this moment, the issue of race and equity have been a concern for me ever since the first day I walked into this district. And I just want to read a statement that the issue of race and its impact continues to play a critical role in our nation with deep and consequential results for people of color, the consequences of which leave no institution in America and most of the world untouched. And as it relates to education, that is deeply felt, for it is here where human minds are nurtured. Some 56 years ago, Brown versus Board of Education, we continue to see widespread inequities in our nation's schools. These inequities take the shape and form of substandard education, high suspension rates, high dropout rates, and substandard facilities, but to name a few. The consequences of these conditions have a much more serious and long-term effect on students of color. According to an article published by the Southern Poverty Law Center in summer 2019 edition, discrimination has adverse effects on the health of those who are targeted. Researchers first connected racism to hypertension in African American subjects in the 1990s. These students are more likely to report symptoms of stress, depression, ADHD, risk-taking activities, school avoidance, and more. It can also cause behavioral problems for children as young as 7. No school district in America has been untouched by race and its challenges, and these challenges are deeply embedded not only in our institutions, but in values and individuals' values and belief systems, and at this particular place where it is most pernicious. Physical barriers to race can be eradicated, but belief systems on race are much more difficult to change. While schools can and do take steps to remove physical barriers, such as opening participation in various programs that students of color were at one point excluded from, the real challenge lies in the belief systems of the men and women who comprise the school environment, consisting of staff and teachers. And as we have learned over the years, the real battle is here. That same article goes on to say, children who experience discrimination from their teachers are more likely to have negative attitudes about school and lower academic motivation and performance, and are at an increased risk of dropping out of high school. In fact, experiences of teacher discrimination shape children's attitudes about their academic abilities above and beyond their past academic performance. Even when controlling for their actual performance, children who experience discrimination from teachers feel worse about their academic abilities and are less likely to feel they belong at school when compared to students who do not experience discrimination. It must be said, however, that the vast majority of teachers in our nation and in the Long Beach Unified School District are extremely dedicated professionals who care deeply about the education of all students. They toil and labor to engage students and move them on a path to success. But like any profession, there are those few who need to be encouraged that all students have both the desire and capacity to learn. Staff who are primarily under the jurisdiction of the school's district superintendent are much more likely to make adjustments to their behavior, particularly as it reflects on issues of race, due to the nature of their employment status. Since most staff employees are not represented by unions, their behavior involving issues of race can be moderated. It is, however, a much more different set of circumstances when it comes to teaching faculty, given their union status along with state and federal laws that protect their rights. Some years ago, the Long Beach Unified School District decided to voluntarily desegregate its schools rather than be guided by a court order. This step represented the first instance of change as it applied to African American students. Over the years, there have been additional change, particularly as it applies to African American students. And I, along with my board colleagues, teachers, parents, staff, and various stakeholders, have been part of that change as noted. Long Beach is a standout among its peers nationally. The College Promise has vastly improved college access for students of color by providing key incentives and services, including free tuition for thousands of students at Long Beach City College, guaranteed admission at Cal State University Long Beach for local students who qualify, and college preparation and guidance as early as elementary school to help children understand that college is within reach. A 2019 report by the Georgetown Center on Poverty and Inequality included, the Promise is one of 3 case studies exemplifying bold steps to increase educational and employment opportunities for young people. President Barack Obama recognized the Promise as an exemplary initiative that has been replicated in many other communities nationwide. The Promise and other local programs such as our Urban Math Collaborative, Male and Female Leadership Academies, and Coalition of Involved African American Parents has helped our students of color to see significant gains. The graduation rate among LBUSD African American students is 85.6% compared to the statewide rate of 76.8% for the same demographic group. The college participation rate among our graduating African American students is 70.2% compared to 59.7% for their counterparts statewide. The district ranks first nationally on the percentage of African American male students who took one or more advanced placement courses. We offer wide access to these college prep classes, providing additional support along the way, such as tutoring, summer bridge programs, and free PSAT and SAT testing to help determine student strengths and areas for improvement. We also launched a multi-year Teacher for Urban School initiative with California State University Long Beach to recruit, prepare, and place more teachers of color in LBUSD classrooms. This action was necessitated because of the declining enrollment of African American males nationally in teacher education programs. Our efforts are designed to grow our own. As a result of the Mary Jane Patterson Scholarship was established in 2019 to recruit students in the College of Education at CSULB who are committed to teaching children who are disadvantaged. The first cohort of that group completed their graduate work and will soon be student teaching in the district. We are currently working to put in place our second cohort of prospective African American students for the program and look forward to growing this program. Some years ago, I formed a group of volunteers, and over a period of 3 years, we met and developed a program focused on increasing the number of students of color enrolled in and persisting in advanced placement courses. With the help and support of Chris Steinhauser, we were able to secure grant funds to help to increase the number of students of color taking and succeeding in AP programs. The district was recognized by the Council of Great City Schools for its efforts on behalf of African American students in AP courses. I'm extremely proud of the Ethnic Studies program that we have developed in partnership with Cal State Long Beach, because it is having the desired impact we envision about issues of race and privilege. Non-African American students, through this experience, are in a better position to evaluate the values of others and develop a better understanding of their role in history that is often hidden. African American students, on the other hand, are able to legitimize their own standing and develop a more meaningful understanding of their history, giving them status and purpose. To me, these effects are the most important components of changing the dialogue about race and privilege. Racism is learned, it can be unlearned. We also engaged the Long Beach Ministerial Alliance to provide input to the various initiatives the district was proposing or enacting, as well as recommendations to improve outcomes for African American students. Periodic meetings were scheduled to elicit their support and advice. These interactions included speaking at the ministers' churches about the district's programs and services. We were able to elicit support and involvement of CSULB President Dr. Jane Conley, who partnered with us as part of this program and spoke at various churches in an effort to recruit students of color to the university. The Long Beach Unified School District continues to have a long history of this advancement of racial equity for students of color. Those are the hallmarks of this district. So how do you define progress, especially in a world steeped in race and class? Given the overall landscape of race in this country as an institution, and when you reflect on efforts over the years to normalize the issue of race at the national and state level, one can see how difficult it is to move the ball. However, we have noticed that progress has and continues to be made on behalf of African American students in the district. And reflecting on the question of progress by the district, I mentioned as the first step along this journey, the decision by the city to voluntarily desegregate its schools. And if we can define progress as an improvement over a former situation, say, an increase in the number of African American student graduation rates or college attendance, and if these actions are sustained and improved, I would submit that progress is taking place. Of course, much like any situation, the need for improvement continues, particularly as the issue of race and its attendant problems are concerned. Race is a constant, and there will continue to be considerable challenges to mute its impact. These challenges have been felt for the past 500 years and will continue to serve as impediments. However, improvements can and are being made. Recommendations: I would request that we use as a starting point to assess those programs and practices that have promoted equity and progress for African American students by reviewing the data on these programs for the past 5 years. This will serve as a baseline as to the effectiveness of the district's efforts to improve educational outcomes for African American students. I would also recommend that the district undertake a comprehensive survey of its students, parents, and stakeholders to solicit their input and recommendations about programs the district should pursue on behalf of all students, and in particular African American students, through a sampling process on income and economic strata in each board member's district. I would finally recommend that we look for ways to engage our union partners in the important and essential work of removing racial barriers in the classroom. Attitudes and opinions about race matter, along with judgments about who has the ability to learn. This is perhaps the most critical part of this journey and where change is most important. Thank you. All right.
Dr. Williams, can I add one word as we finish? Yes. I just want to thank you for that assessment. I want to thank you for the work that you have done over your career here in Long Beach Unified in connecting partners who weren't necessarily part of the education fold before you called them in and asked them to be part of the work. The work that you and my predecessors and our predecessors and colleagues have done, the work of staff these last 10 years really have set us in a unique position as we move forward. And I want to acknowledge and thank you for that work and make the commitment that as long as I continue on this board, that I will continue to do that work. And in 2020, in this moment of time, as we pivot to a new administration, a unique moment in history moving forward, that the work that you've done will contribute greatly to the work that we get to continue to do and on behalf of the folks who started that work. So I am grateful for all of the work that you've done, and I look forward to what's next and what we can continue to do to continue the work that you have started.
Thank you very much, Megan. I really appreciate it.
Well stated, Megan. And Dr. Williams, I think you just read a contract which we all are willing to sign.
All right. Thank you, John. Further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. All in favor, Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, one and all. We're now at resolution 072020-A, approving the notice of authorization to dedicate easement to Southern California Edison at Lindbergh Middle School, located at 1022 East Market Street, Long Beach, zip code 90805, for deteriorated pole replacement and stabilization.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote. All in favor? Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. We are now at reorganization of the board.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Dr. Benitez as president. I think our conversation tonight demonstrates to me that moving forward, we have an opportunity to partner with our community partners, nonprofit organizations, our educational institutions in our city in new and more intensive ways. Dr. Benitez's experience speaks directly to that work. He brings a skill set that I think is valued. One of the things I admire most about this board is our ability to focus on students and families and to not let personal issues get in the way of the work at hand. And while we all may have our moments of struggle, I would say over the past several years, this has been true. And tonight, I would hope is no exception. The opportunities moving forward with the new administration, new board members in this COVID and post-COVID world are calling on us to do very hard things. And I firmly believe that we can do these hard things when we work together as a governance team. And I hope that Dr. Benitez commits to doing this work in cooperation with the board to fully support our new superintendent and executive staff and all who are working on behalf of children and families, and believes he deserves a chance to do that. So I nominate him as president.
Thank you very much, Megan, for the nomination. Is there a second?
How does this work now? Are we calling for a vote, or may we nominate another candidate?
Well, if there's, you can nominate another candidate, but if there's no second, we move on to the next nomination.
Well, Dr. Williams, you after 16 years, I after 17 years, leave the board in December. That leaves Diana Craighead with the deepest, widest experience as a board member. And I think she is well positioned to be our board president during this next challenging year, and I would nominate Diana Craighead.
I will second that motion. Any other nominations?
Yes, Dr. Williams, for the reasons that Mr. Meyer just mentioned, I would nominate Ms. Kerr to be the president of our board.
Okay, is there a second? We have a motion and a second for Diana Craighead as president of the board. I'm going to ask for discussion on the motion. Is there discussion?
Does Ms. Craighead accept the nomination?
Okay, we'll call for the vote for Diana Craighead as president of the board. Voiced by
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Board member Kerr asked if I would accept the nomination.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so before we take a vote, I would say, yes, I accept the nomination.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move forward for the vote, starting with Mr. Meyer.
Yes, aye.
Ms. Kerr.
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
Felton Williams, I vote aye. Board member Craighead, congratulations. You are the president of the board for the 2021 school year. Congratulations. I now hand the chair over to you for the vote for the vice president.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a nomination for vice president?
I nominate
Yes,
Kerr.
I second.
Okay.
I nominated Ms. Kerr, and was seconded by Ms. Dr. Benitez.
Okay, and board member Kerr, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Then we'll take a roll call vote. Board member Meyer.
Aye.
Vice President Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
Board member Kerr.
Aye.
Board member Williams.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So congratulations, board member Kerr. We're now the vice president.
Thank you.
And Madam President, just point of order, it's always important to announce the final tally of the vote. So you could announce that that vote was unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you. Yes, that vote was unanimous, 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have the 2020-2021 certification of signatures and signature authorities.
Move approval. I assume we need a motion for that. Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Letitia, if this passes, do you need us to come into the office to sign signature cards?
Yes, please. If you could all make arrangements to do that, that would be great.
How soon do you want us in there?
If you could stop by tomorrow or the next day, that would be wonderful.
All right.
Just bring your masks.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Board Member Meyer,
Aye.
Board Member Benitez,
Aye.
Vice President Kerr,
Aye.
Board Member Williams,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that would be a unanimous 5-0 vote. Next, we have report of board members. We'll start with you, Mr. Meyer.
Well, thank you very much. It was an honor to join Mrs. Craig Head, Megan Kerr, and Dr. Benitez at the Kamai Parent Association drive-through grab-and-go graduation. I will point out Dr. Williams would have been there too, but he was in Sacramento on very important business that affected our district. But it was great. And I want to give a particular shout out to Chan Hobson, a wonderful Kamai leader. Chan first came to the United States in 1980, and I first met her very, very importantly during my years as principal at Lowell Elementary School. And Chan is just a wonderful individual and epitomizes the dedication and commitment that our Kamai parents and students have made to the city of Long Beach and our district.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Dr. Benitez.
Yes, I want to thank everyone that has been submitting public comments, everyone that provided testimony earlier today. I agree that I think we do have an educational emergency for our Black students in particular, because they are truly suffering and struggling in the midst of our anti-Black contexts. And I think it is important to anchor ourselves around Black students and Black community voices and Black community experiences, because I think this allows for us to also address the inequities that our people of color and students in color in general face. So I am hopeful and I am proud that our district will continue to strive for racial and social justice, and that we will continue to show that we take what we hear seriously, and that equity is not just a word that we use or a mantra that we share, that we take action through policies, through budget considerations, through initiatives, through practices. And so I'm hopeful where we are at as a district moving forward. I wanted to share that as a part of that, we did have 700 people participate in the community forum last week that lifted up many of the issues, concerns, questions, and comments that we've heard the last 2 months at our school district, along with 10 community organizations that collaborated in that. It's a good reminder for us on the priorities around dismantling institutional racism and structural inequities, and the importance for our district to continue providing formal spaces, even if it's just for, not in a trivial way, listening to these voices. I think it's important because it provides communities that have historically not had an opportunity to be listened to, but also important in that that can translate to action, to policies, to priorities and budgets. So I'm glad that our district made the decision to go remote September 1st. I think it allows for us to place safety and health at the forefront, but alongside that, the equity lens that we'll use, we really do have to uphold our commitment to that, because again, for all the things that were shared this morning, our most vulnerable students have taken a couple steps back, or continue to be struggling and suffering in the midst of this pandemic. And I think this is, again, the way for our district to reaffirm our commitment to them and their families and the communities. So I'm proud of all the public comments. I'm proud of all the emails that we receive, the voicemails that I get, the texts that I get, and the interactions that folks have with us, so that we can keep demonstrating and upholding our commitment to racial justice and social justice in our district.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Vice President Kerr.
Yes, thank you. just echo the comments of my colleagues. Saturday was another joyful day of celebration. Our graduates, even though it's July, they seem just as excited to put on their cap and gown and to be recognized. So thank you to Chan Hobson and the Kamai Parents Association for a wonderful first effort. I know they're looking forward to next year already. I want to thank the City of Long Beach for their listening sessions. Dr. Benitez talked about the listening session that happened as a result of TALB's participation and community groups last week. But the city's been undergoing a listening session as well as part of their framework for reconciliation. And I've tried to be on those calls as often as possible to listen. And I encourage people to go onto the city's website, and you can see the videos as well as read the transcripts if you don't have time to watch the videos, to really hear the stories that we don't often hear. We know that the voices are unique and every story has history here in Long Beach. And for me, it has been a rich learning experience to understand what our fellow community members are experiencing, things that I don't see, things that haven't been my experience of Long Beach, even though I grew up not too far from them. So I really encourage people to go and listen and hear those voices. I want to thank the staff for the incredible job they did this morning. Somebody asked me how the workshop went, and I said it was like drinking through a fire hose. We know that staff has been hard at work for weeks and weeks and weeks, trying to make sense of this upside down world. When plans and expectations and criteria change on a daily basis once again, and that plans that you started making a month ago are plans that aren't possible right now. So I know I recognize this morning that each of you could have given us an hour or two alone on your own section of the work. But I want to acknowledge the deep complexity that is this big system and extreme professionalism and thoughtfulness that every staff member is putting into this, from curriculum to instruction to teacher and principal support to our budget to our tech staff. This is a pretty amazing team that was on display this morning, and I want to thank you for just an outstanding job, knowing that there are a million more details that you didn't have the opportunity to share with us. And I look forward to those opportunities coming up in the next couple of weeks to really put our families and our community's mind at ease about what potentially could come next. And I just want to finish with one more quote from the book. I'm cheating for my book club because we don't meet until Thursday. But this is one last thought, is we must struggle together not only to reimagine schools, but to build new schools that are taught to believe, that we are taught to believe are impossible. Schools based on intersectional justice, anti-racism, love, healing, and joy. And that really, it is about freedom and not reform. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said. Dr. Williams.
Yes, thank you very much. I did miss the Kamai graduation the first time in about 5 or 6 years. I've been to every single one of them, but this one I had to take care of some things in Sacramento. The second thing I want to say is as the 16 years that I've been in this district, and I've made this comment before in other situations, the concerns that I've had about race and issues of inequities for our kids has really played a major concern for me. But what I'm most proud of is the district board and staff's concerns to those issues, and the things that we've been able to accomplish as a district around those issues over these years. It's been a very comforting feeling to me to see that kind of response come from all concerned, because I said moving issues of race are difficult, but the folks in this district have responded. Now, I say this from a standpoint of having dealt with 74 of the nation's largest urban school districts for 16 years at the national level. And what I see in Long Beach Unified, I have not seen in districts around this nation. It really tells me something about the men and women in this district who given this issue of race, have moved the ball to deal with it. And when people talk about progress, they have to really pay attention to those things that have occurred in this district. And a lot has occurred in this district. And I know it will continue to happen in this district. And to that, I'm thankful to so many of you for your support and encouragement over the years. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I would just like to acknowledge all the concerned stakeholders that have been emailing and calling, texting about the safe reopening of schools. And I think we can all agree that the in-person instruction is best, but that according to the state and the mandate coming from the governor, we can't provide in-person instruction until our county, which is LA County, is off the monitoring list for 14 consecutive days. So to the community, I would just say, let's watch out for each other. Let's make sure we work to flatten the curve. And that means we have to pay attention to social distancing, wear a mask when you're out in public, that sort of thing. When we work together as a community, then the sooner we can flatten the curve on this coronavirus and the sooner we can get the kids back into the classrooms. And it really comes down to a state mandate. That's who we're following. We're following those guidelines. And when it's possible, we will go back and we will provide the safest environment we can. Superintendent's report.
No additional report from Mr. Steinhauser.
Okay. I would just like to thank this board. I accept this responsibility in no light way. This is an incredible time, and I know that we will continue to work together for what's best for the kids, for our staff, for our teachers, and our work. We have our work cut out for us, but we're going to do it. We're going to have our nose to the grindstone, and together we will be successful. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Or any announcements?
Okay.
If Letitia had one, Letitia, did you have one?
I wanted to make sure you got a chance for announcement.
Yes, I didn't do this in my board report, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Chris Steinhauser.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
On what is his last board meeting, of which he is not present tonight, but is always here. We know a lot of the work that has happened because of his support and because of his behind the scenes work for the last couple of months, even though he hasn't been out in front. I'm thanking him for his decades of service to students in this last official board meeting of his tenure as superintendent. So, Mr. Steinhauser, if you are listening, thank you very, very much.
Yes. Okay. Any further announcements? No? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.